Life at the Hyuga complex and Sir, the Huas set themselves up for residency at the Hyuga sector, taking a small and unused house for their own. Of course all Hyuga houses were high class, so there were few complaints on the choice on either side. Naruto continued to play with Hinata, glad to have a steady playmate in her. And Hiashi let them play, even in the face of his daughter losing a few precious hours of training. To him, the act was seen as an investment. That much was clear among the adults. Though whether his aim was to strengthen relations with the remaining Huas, or whether it was in the vain attempt of winning the war against Hinata's inherent hesitancy and self-depreciation was a speculation that none could take a firm stand on. Naruto himself was either oblivious to the middle-aged man's ulterior motives or he just didn't care. It was most likely the former, for despite Naruto's extended stay at the Hyugas, he managed to remain spectacularly unaware of certain things. Missing Hayashi's alternative motive ranked about 4th or 5th on that particular list. "Hey Hinata-chan," Naruto mumbled one afternoon. Hinata turned from her calligraphy, merely another of those things that she was expected to practice. And like it? Yes. Well, Naruto scratched the back of his head. An act that his friend had quickly discerned as a sign of mild embarrassment. "It's been bothering me for a while, but it's just that well." Was this really Naruto? Hinata could scarcely reconcile the hesitant undertone in her new friend's voice with the loudly outspoken youth that she'd gotten to know over the past weeks. In a way, finding that even Naruto could sound like this gave her hope for herself. She smiled a little at the prospect. "What is it, Naruto-kun?" Naruto took a deep breath. "Do or die time." As if a great dam busted within him, Naruto's next words blurted forwards. "Why do you have such weird eyes?" Thud sounded Hinata's brush as it met with the floor, the heiress's easy hold on it failing after the arm holding it, still raised in the 4th stroke of her kanji, fell loosely to her side. The long, ruining mark of ink that was dragged behind went unseen as Hinata stared at Naruto, her silhouette frozen in shock. Sorry." Naruto apologized, feeling he'd crossed some kind of line. "I shouldn't have asked. It's obviously some mistaken mutation beyond your control and, well, anyways, they're not that weird, really." And, noting that Hinata's form wasn't getting any less statue-like, Naruto was starting to panic. He'd broken her. Shizune was right. Girls really were sensitive to these things. "Sorry." He tried. "And Naruto-kun, why you really don't know about," once more regressing to stuttering. Whatever Hinata was attempting to convey was interrupted by a newcomer. Hinata-sama, Naruto-sama, am I interrupting anything?" A white-eyed boy asked politely as he entered the room. Naruto silently thanked the stranger for giving him a legitimate out from the awkward situation. "He. No, not really," Naruto replied. "What's up?" "My father has asked me to test your mettle." Neji almost said aloud, the words of his father yet echoing inside his head. Flashback X, Neji. "Yes father." Hyuga Hazashi trailed a speculative eye over his son. His pride. The boy was a genius, there were no two ways around that fact. The child's gift with the Byakugan notwithstanding. He was also a genius in every other aspect as well. The boy soaked up Jukan techniques like a sponge and his analytical and decision-making skills were far above his level. A true prodigy. He'd none of the failings of Hayashi's daughter. None of the weakness. And he was still both polite and kind. A perfect son. Any father would be proud. Perhaps it was the greatest source of pride left in his life. After being allocated to the branch family and having the accursed seal placed upon his head, his fate had been sealed. Forever was he at the main branch's mercy, his brother's mercy. It was a trend that would continue until his death day. And why? A few seconds difference. They had been twin brothers, equals at one time. He bared his pain silently, but when it became apparent that his offspring had been so much more gifted than his brothers, his pain had increased sevenfold under the weight of his resentment. What could have been taunted him? Neji was so fit to be the next head of the Hyuga, he had everything that Hinata was lacking and more. Yet he could give his son nothing of what he truly deserved, it was all being given to another. It was almost a joke,
a cruel prank played by the gods of fate. And one day soon, Neji too would be branded forever with the cursed seal of the Branch family. All this he had to bear while pretending that he deserved no better.
Neji, are you aware of Tsunade-sama's arrival? The elder Hyuga finally asked. Yes, father, I heard about it last week. She has a son only a year younger than you, who has like you been training from a young age. I want you to challenge him to a spar. Check his progress, and your own. Hiashi smiled. There is no one left to challenge you within your own age group, after all. Hi, father. Neji said, smiled, and turned to walk out towards his newest challenge. And Neji, Hisashi interrupted. Do your best. For only through you are there any ways to gain victories, small and neglected though they would be, against the main house, against my brother. Yes, father, Neji said, interest newly dulled. His father's face just now had a hint of something else. A shadowy overcast dwelt within his father's eyes, signal of a harsh, adult world that existed in one's mind. A world that very few children sought out to bring into their sunny days of open fields and clear skies. I'll do my best. End flashback X, Naruto-sama, my name is Hyuga Neji. Neji bowed formally. It's an honor to make your acquaintance. Sure. Likewise, Naruto responded. No need for formalities, this guy couldn't be that much older than him, right? What's up? Neji glanced between Naruto, who seemed nervous about something, and Hinata, who seemed dumbfounded by something. Was he really not interrupting anything? I'm here to challenge you to a spar. Hyuga Complex, Central Garden. Hinata could not help but notice the perfection in motion as Neji took up his stance. His arms were spread out perfectly in front and behind him, the front arm slanting upwards from the ground, and the arm behind continuing that trend. His weight was resting primarily on his right leg as his left stretched out before him. Hinata easily noticed the form as one that could easily flow into either close combat offense or defense. Its only weaknesses were to back attacks and being surrounded by the foe. It was a favorite for one-on-one battles among the higher-ups on the Hyuga power scale. Naruto, on the other hand, stood loosely with no semblance of form whatsoever. With a sinking feeling, Hinata realized that Naruto had no idea exactly what kind of opponent he was up against. Time passed as the two combatants stayed neutral in their small, grassy arena. She was just about to give her friend some kind of warning when it happened. The complete silence of the scene was broken, a subtle splash being heard clearly by the combatants. Naruto's eyes tracked the slender blue fish as it made a small leap out of the small pond it inhabited. His eyes elsewhere, the soft tap, tap, tap of feet was the only warning he received. Naruto's eyes snapped back to his quarry, who'd already closed the distance by half. With an internal swear of damn, Naruto's eyes slid shut as he concentrated on what he could sense of his opponent's chakra in preparation for the first strike. There. Naruto's eyes snapped open, his body already sidestepping open-handed strike of his opponent. But it was not possible for Ojuken to overextend or leave the user suffering from any significant recovery time due to his own failed attacks, and Naruto found himself with no room for a counterattack as the succession of offensive blows continued. His eyes were telling him one thing, but his chakra sense was saying something significantly different. When forced to choose between the two, his decision hadn't taken a second. Naruto bent his knees and batted away the striking arm from inside Neji's guard. All he could immediately tell was that those fingers were dangerous. Neji was trapped somewhere between excitement, terror, and complete awe. Never before had he ever heard of someone choosing to dodge the opening move with his eyes closed, and then step inside their opponent's guard in order to launch an effective defense. But his strikes were being batted away as quickly as he could launch them, with such impossible force that each attempt ended in his striking arm being thrown wide. The precious speed of his assault suffering as a result. It was perhaps the only reason that Naruto's unexceptional taijutsu skill could keep up with his own offense. And Neji had no choice but to stay on the offense. It was either that or go on the defensive against the raw power that Naruto displayed while inside his guard. Hinata watched in a kind of horrified awe. Naruto's thought process was a confused frenzy. His attention was not split evenly between combat and tactical analysis. It swung like an erratic pendulum between concentrating fully on countering what, to him, seemed like lightning-fast blows and trying to figure some way out of this situation. His senses were working overtime. His hearing and chakra sense working together to alert him to the general angle of attack shortly before the eyes could properly track it, and the rest was a frantic scramble. He'd knock a strike wide away, only to find his opponent's other hand halfway to his shoulder. A shift of the weight, step in again, past those dangerous fingertips, and he could deflect yet another attack in a seemingly never-ending assault. Rinse, dry, repeat. Here's the 10 million ramen packet question. How long could he keep it up? Neji was still struggling to deal with the situation, which was completely unique to his world. He was constantly on the offense, but also constantly on the retreat, backstepping to get the room to launch another quick strike before Naruto once again closed the distance and defended. He'd been on the offense the entire battle and had never landed a hit, but arms stung with pain every time Naruto knocked one aside with a raw physical power he may have never seen the likes of, and he was left wondering which would run out first, the strength in his arms, or the space behind him available for retreat. His Byakugan gave him the answer: 2 steps of space left. Neji struck out with his left, the strike getting battered away like all the others. This time, Neji went with it. The spinning sweep kick caught Naruto completely by surprise as he was sent falling backwards. Naruto struggled to keep his feet underneath him. He landed in a crouch rather than on his back, and sprung back to his feet. More surprising, Neji had come out of his sweeping kick into a stance that reminded him frighteningly of a coiled spring ready to release. Juken. The Hyuga prodigy landed 5 strikes on his opponent's torso. He hadn't the strength remaining in him to continue the combo, but rather than go on the defensive, Neji ended in a thrusting palm strike that sent Naruto sprawling backwards and out of counterattack range. Options like that were what made Juken one of the most feared taijutsu styles in the world. Knocked off his feet once more, Naruto struggled back to his feet and slowly backstepped to increase the distance from his opponent. Something was wrong. His chakra sense was telling him something was definitely wrong. With a sinking feeling, all the pieces came together. Naruto's eyes were disbelieving as he pulled down the collars of his jacket and shirt with his left hand to see the slight red points of inflation below his collarbone. No way, you closed my tenketsu. You. As the realization sunk in, Naruto could feel the moisture in his eyes as he tried to blink the tears back. You can form needles of chakra on your fingertips. You can even sense the location of tenketsu and close them. His opponent suddenly seemed 10 times more skilled than he had previously. The level of chakra control and chakra sense to perform such things could only be imagined. Naruto didn't even feel his jealousy. It was washed away in a sea of anger, some for his opponent, but most of it directed towards himself. This stranger was so far above him in his own field. Damn it. The words broke free from his emotionally chocked throat as Naruto's left hand struck into the ground with all his frustration. What have I been doing, all this time? The small tremor of the ground as he struck it went unnoticed by the blonde as he didn't bother to remove his hand from its imprint in the earth, or get up out of his kneel by it. I've been working so hard, but you. Naruto's anger faded, not knowing what to do. All that was left was the pain. The desperation in his voice was evident. Am I really so hopeless after all? I trained all my life. While I was supposed to be asleep. While I was tired. While I was sick. Neji didn't know what to say. Did Naruto not know about Byakugan or Juken? It seemed impossible, but at the same time, the only explanation that made sense. What about Juken could have such an effect on the golden-haired youth? He tried to say something, but he couldn't find the words. Naruto-sama. Neji's eyes widened as a stray thought grabbed his attention and wouldn't let go. If Naruto didn't know about the Juken, then how? You can sense the form of my chakra as I use Juken. To be able to sense something like that, such an accomplishment at such an age. It was not completely unbelievable, but to actually encounter such a thing. Don't look down on me. Naruto growled as he stood angrily, his rage back with a vengeance. Even if you're better, do you think that I can't even manage something like that? Don't get so high and mighty, you bastard. Who the hell do you think I am? Neji was more aware of the stinging in his arms than ever. He tried to raise them into the stance he'd used at the start of the battle, but the pain gave him pause. It was then that his first-class sight caught movement on one of the surrounding rafters. A shift of cloth. Father? Neji bit back the pain as he shifted his body into the open swallow stance for the second time that morning. Picture perfection once again. It was then that Naruto finished his angered speech, accenting the last word with the beginning of his thunderous charge, running full tilt towards Neji's location, do or die, written in his eyes. Steeling himself, Neji sprinted forwards as well. The distance quickly closed and Neji struck out with his right hand an open palm strike to Naruto's left shoulder, but the strike only met with Naruto's own palm. Another shock registered in Neji's mind. His opponent had just chosen to sacrifice almost every tenketsu in his left palm. The reason why became apparent as the fingers quickly curled around his own, locking his arm in place. Awari da. Naruto's angered growl of, "This is the end," was the only warning Neji received before he was yanked forwards by the right arm, the one Naruto had locked in place, as his opponent bent his knees and slammed an already cocked back fist into his unguarded torso. The impact itself was such that it produced an audible boom, and sent Neji sailing into the large tree behind him, upon which, the Hyuga child's flight was abruptly ended and the boy slumped down at the base of the tree, doubtful of his prospects of getting up to rejoin the fight again. Neji glanced up to see his opponent already standing before him, left hand hanging limply by his side, all but useless, the right hand still clenched tightly in a fist. "It's my loss," the Hyuga consented, his mind still reeling from the blow. But even as his mind reeled, it demanded that his opponent's right fist deserved further attention. Externally, first-degree burns. And internally, though he'd only closed the tenketsu in Naruto's left hand, the chakra lines in the blonde's right hand had nonetheless been damaged by something. Perhaps it had to do with the bright flash his Byakugan detected just before impact. Neji deactivated the Byakugan and struggled to get up and converse with the victor properly. "Naruto-sama." "Stay still," Naruto interrupted as he kneeled down, his anger exhausted for the time being. "I've broken one of your ribs. I can do the bandaging and binding, but my chakra coils are too damaged to do the rest. It'll be up to Ne-chan." Tsunade didn't personally heal anyone unless it was Naruto, one of the injured animals Naruto brought home, or she was being paid a lot. "You know," Naruto said reluctantly as he removed Neji's undershirt and placed his right hand on his chest, slowly leaking his chakra into the injured boy's system, seeking out the broken rib that was doubtlessly floating around in his patient's chest area. "With your skills, Neji-san, you could make," Naruto struggled to force the admission past his lips, "a great medic nin. Maybe, the best of our generation." Neji winced, bracing for the pain that he was sure would come. He was happily disappointed. Blinking, he was noticed that though the feeling of something moving around inside his chest was quite strange, it was no more painful than being pinched by marshmallows. Now that the match was over, Hinata had scurried over to her friend's side, looking at her cousin with some concern. Noticing that Neji was strangely all right, despite having a broken rib, she turned to her friend and the issue that seemed to trouble him so. "Naruto-kun, you really don't know about the Byakugan." Our eyes. What followed was a 10-minute eye-opener about the Hyuga and just what made him the most prominent clan in Konoha. It was Naruto's first personal encounter with a bloodline limit, and it shook his world. The concept of such power being attained simply due to one's heritage felt wrong on many levels to the boy, who'd worked his hardest for every scrap of ability he'd ever acquired. Naruto sat quietly, a significant change for him to say the least. He was contemplating what he'd just been told, but his revere was soon broken. "Oi, brat. Huh, Ka-chan?" Tsunade came to stand in front of Naruto, who stood up to meet her. Glancing slightly at Neji's prone form out of the corner of her eye, Tsunade formed 7 hand seals too quickly for the children to follow and slapped her palm onto Neji's chest and slipped a post-it note onto his forehead. "Read, no strenuous exercise, 2 weeks. in a very, I'm barely paying attention to what I'm doing, attitude. The whole time, she hadn't looked away from her son. Neji blinked. Today was an odd day, he kept meeting godly medics. Tsunade-sama, arrogant. Whatever, kid. You're healed, so get out of here already. The Sanin made a shoo-ing gesture. You too, Hinata, I need to talk to the kid. The two Hyugas were quick to comply. They knew not to mess with the woman. Soon the mother and son pair was alone. So, Tsunade took up her son's right hand in both of hers and examined it. You used it. Naruto's gaze fell to his feet. Yes, he mumbled, but I still can't do it properly. Look at me, Naru-chan, Tsunade demanded. Don't underestimate the technique's difficulty. Even Sharingan masters have tried to copy it and failed. You'll be the second person in history to use it, because you're the only one I've taught it to. Even Nei-chan can't. The mother shook her head. Her voice took on the patient explanatory tone that all good mothers keep in reserve. Shizune just wants to be a medic nin. If she never sees another battlefield she'll be happy. So what does she need freakish strength for? Besides, she was my apprentice, and you're my heir. There is a difference. Naruto chuckled, almost embarrassed. Moving right along, Tsunade came to the main reason she was out here. Anyway, I came to talk to you, kid. Me and Shizune will be working on a tough case for a few weeks, so you probably won't see us around. Tough case? Naruto echoed. Hinata's mother. Naruto was shocked and concerned all at once. What? That's horrible. You have to do something. I have to do something. Does Hinata-chan know? We need to do something. Shut up, Tsunade yelled, pounding her fist into the top of her adopted son's head. Calm down already, you noisy brat. You're giving me a headache. Yes, it's horrible. I am doing something. You don't get to help. Hinata knows, and no, we don't need to do anything, but I somehow got stuck agreeing to help her. What? Naruto deadpanned. You owe her money. Pound. Naruto peeled himself off of the floor. Again. You know, I could file for both child abuse and malpractice. He glared. I'm still injured. Damn it. Restrain yourself, woman. TWHACK. You would almost think Naruto was going for some kind of obscure record. Ow. You're no help at all. He complained. I'll heal my own painfully injured hands, thank you very much. Oh, shut up, you insolent brat. Keep your mouth closed and you'll live longer. Naruto, opting to avoid further punishment for now, sighed and dropped the argument. So how did you get stuck, agreeing to help Hinata-chan's mom? Tsunade dropped the argument as well. Hiashi groveled, she shrugged. A lot. And I knew you'd blow up at me if I turned it down. Besides, I wouldn't call her my friend, but she's an acquaintance, at least. Naruto said nothing. His mind had frozen at Hiashi groveled. Wasn't that an oxymoron or something? He was sure there was some rule that you couldn't use Hiashi and grovel in the same sentence. Tsunade hadn't let go of her son's injured hand yet. She bent down at the waist and looked the boy in the eye seriously. That's right, Naru-chan, he groveled, pitifully. He broke down and cried. She clarified pointedly. This is also an important lesson of being a medic nin, don't forget it. It doesn't matter how strong they're on the battlefield, because when their family, friends, or loved ones are on the hospital bed, they can't do a damn thing to help. Fathers, mothers, sisters, and lovers will turn to you to keep the light in their lives and their loved ones by their sides. Do you understand? Naruto nodded slowly. When his mother said it like that, the concept of the stony-faced Hyuga groveling was not so hard to believe. Tsunade sighed regretfully. You're not going to be just a medic nin, Naru-chan. You're going to be the son and heir of the legendary Tsunade, miracle healer. The medic nin that can cure anything. People have that image of me, Naru-chan, and they'll expect the same of you once your training is over. The worst cases that everyone else would give up on will be brought to you, and you'll be expected to do something about it. Naruto nodded. I get it. Yet another dimension was added to idea of being a medic nin. Layers upon layers, there were always new aspects to consider. Good. Tsunade placed a light kiss on her adopted son's forehead. Let's go inside and treat that injury of yours. Yeah, Naruto agreed, and as the mother-son pair headed inside, a question bred of his insecurities popped into Naruto's head. Hey, Car-chan. Do you know anyone that became strong without a special ability? Tsunade raised an eyebrow questioningly. Of course, the Sannin said as she slowly traced her index finger through the air. For a second, Naruto thought his adopted mother would point at herself, but the finger kept moving along its course and pointed off to the distance. Squinting against the glare of the afternoon sun, Naruto gulped as the finger came to rest while clearly pointing towards rightmost corner of the Hokage monument, clearly visible even from this distance. Well, there's always your biological father. Yondawa certainly started out with no special talent at all, Tsunade smirked, and of course, there's one more that comes to mind. Yeah? Who? Using the same index finger, Tsunade poked her son's forehead playfully. Don't sell yourself short, brat. It doesn't suit you. Whatever, Naruto blustered. X scene change X. Father, I've returned, Neji announced, entering his father's room. I see, and the results? Hasashi asked in an all-business tone. Neji shook his head. A complete loss on my part. Naruto-sama's fighting is incredible, it's as if he does not know fear. His tactics were swiftly made and executed without any hesitation at all. He did not flinch once, despite the dangerous situations he put himself in. The white-eyed boy paused briefly to collect the words for his next sentence. His senses were razor-sharp, and his power was overwhelming. Though, it's strange, his taijutsu skill itself was very basic. But in the end, I was disabled with a single blow. Neji couldn't stand it. He focused on the floor, too ashamed to look his father in the face. Hasashi sighed through his nose. That was just another reason to be proud of his son. He never made excuses. You fought well, the father recounted factually. It's just that sometimes your best isn't enough, the man almost said aloud, but Hasashi would restrain himself from disenchanting his son's childhood. He was his precious son, after all. You're young yet, Neji, the hand fate has in store for you has barely yet been revealed. That in mind, continue to work hard. Hi. The boy instantly beamed. He'd make his father proud. But father, Naruto-sama's last move still puzzles me. Ah, Hasashi sounded in understanding, so you caught that with your Byakugan. It was the secret technique of Tsunade Hime herself, which combines with her physical strength to produce a monstrous impact. Maximum amounts of chakra is molded and then concentrated in the fist and released in an instant. You should understand that the version Naruto-sama used was incomplete, and the power was weakened and he injured himself. If Tsunade Hime used that technique in her prime, even Hokage-sama would have trouble surviving a single blow. It is no shameful loss, and while you have suffered defeat for the first time against a peer, you've also gained an acquaintance. In fact, I believe I hear him outside right now. Neji glanced, stood and looked out the near window. Indeed, Naruto was once more playing hide-and-seek with Hinata. Hasashi smiled. Why don't you join them? Even if it meant spending time with Hayashi's daughter. Hasashi's Byakugan did not lie, and right now he could see clearly for the first time in a long time, that he'd been pushing Neji far too hard lately. Neji blinked. Really? Hi. Omake there was always, of course, Naruto's outfit and the story behind it. Tsunade mused, observing her adopted son with a critical eye. Yes, it will do. Naruto stood in front of a full-sized mirror, looking thoroughly miserable in his new long-sleeve jacket and unadorned pants. He felt stifled. He felt so uninteresting. Car-chan, what the hell is this? It's seriously restricting. Tsunade snorted. Wait until I write the movement restricting genjutsu onto it. Hey, bring it on, Naruto only replied arrogantly. Naruto-kun, your arrogance is showing, Shizune chastised kindly. Ah, gomen, Naruto responded, properly scolded. Looking at the outfit he was wearing, it was no wonder Naruto felt stifled. The long-sleeved jacket may not have been thick or particularly hot, considering how closed up it seemed fashion-wise, but the color scheme left a lot to be desired in his eyes. It was pure white. And those painfully plain pants. Pure white. He was surprised they hadn't bleached his hair yet. Could he not get some color over here? A splash of blue? Even a measly speck? Oh, what he wouldn't do for some orange right now. I look like a geek. Naruto cried. A complete geek. What are you talking about? Tsunade demanded. It looks good on you. Yes, Naruto-kun, Shizune placated. You look scholarly. The cool, intellectual kind of scholarly, Naruto sniffed. Or, the geeky, doesn't know how to have fun, and is always reading a book kind of scholarly. Well, Shizune's hesitation wasn't helpful to her case. I knew it. Naruto screamed in vindication, I look like a geek. Oh, stop complaining. Tsunade yelled. She'd had those clothes made especially for him. How dare he? Oh, just leave me alone. Naruto yelled. My life is already over. He cried. It wasn't enough for you to put that girly seal on my head, was it? He demanded. You just had to dress me up like a geek, too. You're still complaining about that? It's been 3 years already, get over it. Tsunade demanded. That seal is for Genesis regeneration, grow up and accept it. Shizune felt like crying. It was not just clothes. The argument was starting to branch out into other areas now as well. They were making such a scene. Genesis regeneration is fine and all, Naruto grudgingly admitted. But it turns into a diamond. A girly little diamond. At least make it a frog or a slug or something. Tsunade looked like she was going to be sick. And you want me to listen to your fashion sense? You idiot brat. If you had your way, our house would be one big, orange, animal farm. Stop insulting the color orange. Naruto demanded fervently. Orange is stupid. Tsunade yelled down at her son adamantly and with an alarming display of immaturity. Orange is ugly. 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 It really is the ugliest color in the world. Gah. Naruto shook his fist. At least my fashion sense doesn't make me look geeky. It's scholarly, you idiot. Tsunade shouted back. At least my fashion sense doesn't make you look like a pumpkin. Grr, Naruto growled. How could you do this to me, Car-chan? I'm telling you, I really hate these clothes. He yelled loudly. Tsunade flinched. Why, you idiot? I spent 2 hours picking out the design myself, she yelled angrily. The two locked in an intense glaring contest. Both seemed hurt that the other wouldn't understand their feelings on the subject. Soon, the glares broke, and the pair oddly left the store in silence after paying for Naruto's outfit. Shizune trailed worriedly behind. X scene change X. Shizune was worried. The two hadn't spoken much since their argument at the store. Surely, it wasn't unusual for them to fight or argue. They did it all the time. But this time seemed strangely different. Shizune could almost feel the pressure of unsaid words hanging in the air as if it were a tangible force. Naruto walked into the living room, towel draped over his shoulders, and hair wet. Looking up from the medical scroll she'd been reading, Tsunade spotted Naruto and his appearance visibly surprised her. What are you doing, brat? She asked evenly. If you just take a shower to get clean, don't wear the dirty clothes from before. It's common sense. Naruto looked down at his plain, white, geeky outfit. Well, I just got it today, right? It's not really dirty, so, Naruto paused, so I'll just wear it again. It's not really that geeky anyway, I guess. Tsunade didn't know what to say. Yeah? Well, good, she seemed somehow uncomfortable. Though thinking about it, a brat like you loves to wear holes in your clothes. We should probably go shopping again tomorrow, or something, she mumbled. Maybe even grab 1 or 2 orange things. Orange? Naruto asked. Well, if it's 1 or 2. Orange. Naruto repeated, energetically. Now hold on, brat. Tsunade yelled. 1 or 2, I said. Was that it? Shizune mused. Did they want to just say, I'm sorry? You actually have a point, she chuckled. What was she thinking? Sometimes, those words were the hardest to say. Either way, as long as those two reconciled already, then everything would be all right. Orange. Naruto screamed with his arms raised gloriously to the ceiling. Either just because he was actually that excited, or he simply wanted to piss his mother off more. One or two? Tsunade demanded. One or two, I say. Damn it, she would be heard. Don't you dare get carried away. Step by step life continued on for Naruto. His adopted mother and sister weren't around much, as Naruto had been informed. For weeks, the only contact he'd have with them would be brief meetings in the halls. Occasionally, they'd forego eating in their research room, which Naruto was not allowed into, and take their meal at the table along with Naruto, Hinata, and Hiashi, as if they were actually civilized people and not ones that were tragically overworking themselves. Noting that it might not be safe, and factoring in her bare minimal trust in Konoha, Tsunade made very clear that she didn't want Naruto outside of the Hyuga complex for any reason. Naruto mumbled incoherently as he stumbled towards the breakfast table, dressed and ready to go, but still rubbing the sleep out of his eyes. Morning. Hinata smiled at her friend, already at the table. She restrained herself from giggling at Naruto's appearance. It wouldn't have been appropriate. Oh Ohio, Naruto-kun. Are you excited about today? Today? The sleepy boy croaked out. Today is? Naruto scrambled to remember. Was there something important today? Oh? He suddenly shouted, looking for all the world as if he hadn't been the very image of a walking zombie previously. It's that day. Yes. He cheered, bouncing over to the table. Hinata giggled, as she usually ended up doing when Naruto was around. Hi, it's Heroes' Day, she informed. Heroes' Day. The biggest festival of the year. So named after the Yondawa Hokage, who had traded his life in to defeat the terrifying Kyuubi no Kitsune. All of Konoha gathered to produce the liveliest gathering many would ever see, as if to bask in the joy of life which they had come so close to forfeiting to the Kyuubi those years ago. Hinata's heart wrenched as her words had the opposite of their intended effect. It hurt to see Naruto's eyes reflect his shock before his hyper-happy face slowly slid from that state to one of desperation, neutrality, and finally, one of resigned dejection. His right hand came up to stop just inches from touching the whisker marks upon his cheek. It was as if the world was suddenly placed on his shoulders and he wasn't the least bit surprised that his burden would increase 100-fold. Her fault? It was always her fault. Why could she just never do a single thing right? She had to try to cheer her friend up, somehow. Why, you're the Yondaim's son and the container for Kyuubi. Everyone will probably be so happy to see you. She tried vainly to little result. Maybe they'll give you free ramen, or... Maybe, Naruto assented, though he didn't sound hopeful in the least if his subdued voice was any indication. Hey, do you know if Ka-chan or Nei-chan are coming to breakfast? He asked, looking left and right as if expecting his adoptive family to walk down the halls at any second. They should be here today. Ah, Hinata looked worried. Breakfast was sent to their research room again. The pair of high-end medics had holed themselves up in an unused room and had scarcely come out for food and washroom breaks. Oh, and so the minuets ticked past, Naruto saying nothing and Hinata following suit. The boy looking as if his day had been wrecked utterly, but that at least he could see his family at the breakfast table. Hinata wanted her friend to feel better, but was too sure that she could only make his day worse to try to cheer him on. So it was that Naruto was left to cope with his problem on his own. Naruto-kun, Hinata finally managed. Hey, aren't you hungry? He hadn't touched his food. No, the boy muttered, dulled eyes locked onto the tabletop. You start eating. I'll eat with Ka-chan and Nei-chan when they get here. Naruto-kun, what could she say? Hinata-sama. Huh? The Hyuga heiress spun in her seat to face the arriving branch family member. The seamstress has arrived. I'm to escort you to her. That's right, the seamstress appointment. It was for tonight's kimono. As she'd be helping represent the Hyuga influence at the festival, the entire day had been allocated towards her getting dragged to outfitters and the like. Naruto-kun, I'm sorry, she apologized. No, it's okay. I'm just going to keep waiting here, Naruto said, producing a forced smile, even as he remained clenching a portion of the tablecloth on top of the table in his first subconsciously, as he'd been doing for the past hour, just in case they come after all. It was noon by the time young Naruto finally left the breakfast table. As a branch family member arrived and took up his breakfast plate, replacing it with lunch, Naruto simply stood up and left without a word. So, they even made a festival, Naruto mumbled, standing now in the Hyuga Central Garden, before the very counting tree that he'd become so familiar with. He didn't know why he'd ended up here, but he similarly couldn't think of anywhere else he could go at the moment. They'd made a festival out of the day a demon had been sealed inside him, the day his biological father and mother had died, the day he'd been born. Somehow, the cold glares he knew awaited him outside the confines of the Hyuga complex combined with the images of happy, normal families enjoying a happy, normal festival on this day. It was pissing the hell out of him. Slam! The sound was that of his foot impacting the massive tree trunk before him. He didn't know why he was doing this. Maybe he was trying to prove something, but just what he didn't know. Naruto proceeded to walk up the tree in a vain attempt for what seemed like the 1000th time. Step after step, each slow step being a little more difficult than the last. Naruto was 7 steps, his all-time personal record, up the tree when he lost control. The boy didn't even bother to try landing on his feet and impacted flat on his back, staring dispassionately at tree-covered sky above him. Happy birthday, to me. He wouldn't have minded getting presents or congratulations, but he didn't really care either. He didn't need that. He just wanted to talk to his family at the breakfast table today, a piece of normalcy time together. He would have been so grateful, just for that. Naruto didn't move from his position sprawled on the ground at the base of the counting tree. What was the point? Naruto let a stray leaf drift down to land on his forehead, where it started to itch. He paid it no heed. Looking rather impassive, he didn't move a single muscle. Because it doesn't matter who you are, sometimes your problems, people's expectations, uncertainties, and responsibilities just pile up, one after the other, and you can pretend like it doesn't matter, but you secretly know it does. And so it is that the world just brings you down, and at that point you'll just feel so tired that you'll never want to get back up. Naruto's gaze remained unfocused and ahead. In fact, he didn't so much as flinch at what happened next. Catching a swift movement within his peripheral vision, Naruto's right hand shot out and caught the falling object. His eyes slowly drifted towards the contents of his right hand and he was broken out of his stupor at last. Bird. Looking up, Naruto took note of the corresponding nest, then back at the bird he'd saved. "You're learning how to fly, aren't you?" He spoke to the bird, as if he half expected the creature to understand him. He stood up and put the suicidal avian on a nearby fence. "You're obviously too young to fly, you bird brain," he informed. "You could be seriously injured, and—" But the rest of Naruto's words became stuck in his throat as the little bird hurled itself off of the fence and started to flap its wings like its life depended on it. Which it probably did. "You idiot bird," Naruto huffed, having caught the damn thing again. "Who do you think you're trying to impress? Your Car-chan probably can't even see you from where she is," he scolded, putting the bird once more on the fence, as he knew how much birds disliked staying on the ground. "Besides, what's the point? I'm telling you it's dang." The small bird's tiny chirp halted Naruto's speech as the strange thing went ahead and hurled itself off the fence again. Raw reflex was the only thing that let Naruto catch his plummeting acquaintance, as the boy was truly shocked. But as his thought process rebooted, a familiar glint entered the boy's eyes and suddenly, he was tired of being tired. What the hell was he doing? It took a second for Naruto to notice that he was chuckling. "This has got to be a joke," he muttered, looking at the ball of feathers. "Outdone by a bird." He suddenly snorted. "Yeah, right." A fire was rekindled within Naruto's heart, and it expanded and grew until it was the roaring bonfire that was accustomed to being there. Slam! Naruto braced his right leg against the tree trunk, keeping the young bird that he might deem a comrade tucked against his chest. Try number 1001, and with that, the birthday boy was off like a rocket. Step after fierce step, the ascension transformed from a brisk walk into a dead run and Naruto never gave an inch he took. Thud, 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 thud. There. With one last push, Naruto lighted upon the topmost branch of the counting tree, bird safely in hand and feeling good. Damn good. Here you go, he practically chirped, depositing the bird into his nest of origin. Despite that fact that the idea of the tiny bird actually managing to fly should have been truly ridiculous, Naruto was yet only half surprised when the little bird flung itself out of the nest once more and this time proceeded to, while struggling, fly. Hey, ha ha ha. Go figure, he could only say, shaking his head in wonderment. Watching the little bird's course of flight, Naruto's gaze got hitched at a certain point. While the central garden was indeed at the center of the complex, it was also at the south end and beyond the wall before him. The sea of trees that the Hyugas had around their complex seemed to call to the young boy. It was time to see for himself the Konoha that he might one day come to call home, for good. Ready or not, Konoha, here I come. Ex-Hyuga complex, unused room, now Tsunade and Shizune's operating room. Tsunade hissed as she slumped back into the comfy chair that she'd absolutely demanded be present. Of course it was disinfected and covered with a plastic cover that stopped it from releasing any particles into the air, but it was a comfy chair nonetheless, and right now her back really needed a comfy chair. Shizune slumped against a far wall, in a similar state to her mentor. It's over, she tiredly declared, as if she couldn't believe it. Tsunade nodded and rubbed her temples. Finally. Hiashi was kneeling by his wife's side, actual emotion on his face for a change. Hayatori-chan, he keened. Shizune almost fell over. Somehow, she still didn't expect Hiashi to use chan, even with only two other people in the room. Tsunade sighed. As I thought, we weren't able to remove it completely, she'll be fine for now, but this is a temporary fix at best. Hayashi's back tensed, but he didn't turn from his wife's side. How long? At best. A little over 1 year, I see, Hiashi said. Thank you, for giving us the time you have. He still hadn't turned from his wife's side. The headaches will come back, along with the loss of sight, and everything else, Tsunade informed, standing up. Your bloodline makes it hard to operate on the cranium, don't try for another operation, you hear? I understand, and again, the man did not turn. We're leaving, Shizune, Tsunade barked. Hayashi needed to be alone with his wife right now, and Tsunade needed to see her son and then get some much-needed sleep. Tsunade opened the door and frowned. Shizune shakily stood up. She was only the assistant and she was still tired. Scampering over to her mentor's side, she was ready to head out and look for her Otautu, but Tsunade's arm was suddenly before her, barring her progress. Tsunade-sama. She followed the Sanon's frowning gaze to the floor, finding 2 plates of food. Dinner? She asked, sounding befuddled. She was hungry and both mentally and physically exhausted. Connections just weren't being made within her mind at any kind of speed. No, Tsunade answered. If anything, she was more exhausted than Shizune, but also more naturally perceptive to her environment. Rolled omelette, rice, miso soup, fuck, this is breakfast. What? We purposefully chose a closed-off room which even light didn't penetrate. And worked through the goddamn night by accident, she ground out. She couldn't believe it. Of all the times for this to happen. But, Shizune sounded distressed, and suddenly wakeful. But Naruto-kun. Yeah, Tsunade growled, it's Naru-chan's birthday and we didn't even have goddamn breakfast together. She said as she purposefully stepped over the cool breakfast and stormed down the Hyuga halls, yelling in search of her son. Shizune was not 1 second behind her in the task. And so it was that the assistant medic ran smack right into the back of her mentor when the woman suddenly stopped. Tsunade, for her part, just glanced over her shoulder at her apprentice. Shizune, did you get a look at the moon last night before the operation? Yes, I did, Tsunade-sama. What phase was it in? What? The color drained from the Ne-chan's face. It was. The look on her apprentice's face was answer enough. Fuck, Tsunade reiterated. Naru-chan. Konoha. Streets X, it's the demon. Whispers. It came out. We have to finish it while it's still a child, those damn whispers. No. If Sandemi-sama finds out. How many times? Shush. Be quiet, it'll hear you. This same goddamn conversation more or less repeated everywhere he went. Stupid ninjas, Naruto thought. Were those guys just exceptionally bad ninjas, or did they know that he would hear the whole conversation and pretended that they didn't? Either way, two things were becoming very clear. 1. The Heroes' Day festival was indeed as big a deal, if not a bigger deal than he'd been led to believe it was. And 2. The villagers and ninjas of his home village would rather he didn't exist. Some seemed confused at what to make of his existence, while the rest seemed resolute in their beliefs. But sadly, what both factions were united in was that everyone would be only too happy if he were dead. Some didn't care how he would die, from what he could gather, but the vast majority wanted the sincere pleasure of ending his life personally. But they were all talk and no action, for now, and none seemed to be acting on whatever murderous thoughts hid openly behind the obvious whispering and dismantling glares. But that was okay. They just had to get used to the idea that he wasn't the demon sealed inside him. They'd see, they wouldn't have a choice. Naruto wasn't feeling generous enough to give them one. He'd make them see his face every day, his and not the Kyuubi's. In fact, he'd be so in your face that they couldn't help but notice him. And over the weeks, months, years, whatever it took, they would see that he was still there, in their faces, having done nothing intentional, harmful or demonic. And then they'd start to think. Really think. They'd think on their own, apart from their clubs, groups, or gossip rings. And they wouldn't think about how the demon was biding its time, or how he was going to kill them all, because the evidence for that would be too pitiful, and that would be stupid. They'd be thinking that hey, that Naruto kid doesn't seem dangerous after all. And then they'd stop being afraid. And then maybe he could call this place home, for good. Oh, what a dream. But then again, every child needs to dream sometimes. And though they won't admit it to themselves or each other, every adult needs to dream just as much. X Playground X, ha ha ha, hey look guys, it's the big four-headed girl. A child said and pointed. Sakura's stomach dropped. They were here, the bullies. Not the boy kind that beat you up after school, though. Rather, they were the girl kind that spat on your dreams and dismantled your self-worth. They were the bane of Sakura's every day. Ooh, is she making a sand castle? Came the sing-song's second voice. Sickeningly sweet words, Sakura recognized. It was the most dangerous tone of voice. Hey, one brown-haired girl piped up. It's actually pretty good. Sakura foolishly got her hopes up. It really was a good sand castle. She'd slaved meticulously over it for hours on her own and managed to create something beautiful and with a meaningful existence. And as its creator, maybe, just maybe she could have those same values attached to herself. Maybe they would stop teasing her all the time. Maybe she could even join their group. Be one of them. Ha ha, she probably smoothed out the walls with her forehead. One joked. The reference to her abnormality caused a deep sting for Sakura, as she recognized that she'd been a fool. They'd never accept someone like her. Don't let your head swell up in pride, Sakura. If it gets any bigger, you won't be able to fit through the doors. Ha ha ha, oh look, it's a mosquito. Quick Sakura, get it with your forehead, so it can't escape. The cackles of those children continued among the teasing, some of which was getting repetitive, but the children certainly didn't care. A blonde slowly made her way to the front of the pack. Ah, Ino-chan's here, the brown-haired girl declared. Contrasted to Sakura, Ino was always cool, and, with it, she knew the popular trends, the popular topics. She was just popular. HMPH, the young Ino snorted. Making sand castles. Stop wasting your time with childish things and grow up, Sakura, and get some fashion sense while you're at it, she added, as if as an afterthought. For God's sake, do something about that forehead of yours. She accented her statement by walking past the pink-haired girl and roughly kicking her sand castle, ruining it and spraying sand everywhere. In the world of the girls' half of the playground, Sakura was weak. Those that were weak didn't need to stay weak. They could learn how to talk, how to walk, and how to dress just like Ino. You just had to put in the hours and the research. Sakura chose to stay weak by staying so unimpressive, and the strong preyed on the weak. That was the nature of the world. Ino stepped back to observe her handiwork. No! Sakura cried. But, laughing, the other bullies merely followed their sometimes leader in her sudden act of meanness. They did it because it was fun, because it made them feel important, grown up, and influential, and like they could get away with anything. Ha ha ha, you're such a crybaby. And indeed, Sakura was far into her tears by now. Thoughtlessly, a brunette threw the first stone. And though Ino tried to stop the act, she found herself too slow. The rock was not 2 inches away from Sakura's face when a boy appeared out of nowhere and was there to instantly catch it in an outstretched palm. Those present would later theorize that he'd arrived during a blink, except none of them had blinked. Oi, the new blonde growled, don't you think you're going too far? Ino blinked. Kids didn't just move like that. Her father moved like that. Yeah, as a matter of fact. I do, Ino testily replied, making sure the newcomer could see her eyeing the brunette girl whose arm she still held tightly, presumably in a failed attempt to abort the brunette's throw. But what's it to you, new kid? She hadn't thought a kid could pull off the whole, move faster than you can actively register, trick, even against other kids. You know, it sucks. I'm trying to show people that I'm not dangerous to anyone, but I don't like bullies, Naruto informed warningly, scaring a few people. Ino didn't back down. And so what? Ino demanded. My dad's a ninja. He's a Junin, and he'd kick your ass. Oh, so formidable. Naruto mock cringed in fear. Sarcasm was practically dripping from each word as Naruto continued. You gang up 5-1 on a kid that's just making sand castles, and then you're gonna drag your father into this? I can really respect your spine. Sakura wiped her tear-stained face with her sleeves. She'd been saved from those bullies. Someone was standing up for her. It was like a fairy tale, except it wasn't like being saved by a knight in shining armor at all. To vocalize it, let's see. It was more like being saved by an angry bear. Listen kid, we did her a favor. Forehead girl's already a loser. If she wastes her time on childish things like sand castles, she'll just become even more loser-ish, Ino sneered. The way this guy stood, the way he talked, he had it all. Everything Ino had. He could be one of the cool kids, and a leader, easy. Why stand up for a loser? What the hell? Naruto growled. The pack of girls, minus Ino, gasped in response to his language. Sandcastles are childish. So what? We're children, you complete idiot. He yelled to Ino's face. What the hell about you is so special that you feel like you can look down on the rest of us? I'm taller than you, but you keep calling me kid. Listen up. I'm only going to tell you this once, so try to wrap your little blonde head around it. My name's Ho-Oh Naruto, and I'm a childish brat that can kick all your asses. Yamanka Ino spat back. And I'd like to see you try. She totally neglected the fact that she barely ever took her father's light training sessions seriously, and that her friends were either the same, or just civilians. This is what's called hot-headed thinking. Ino? Naruto stared. You're making fun of someone for their forehead size, but your name means pig. Shut up. Ino hollered. It's a respectable tradition in my family, you fishcake boy. Fishcake? Fishcake? Naruto echoed. Oh, it's on now, Ms. Piggy. The two blondes' faces were mere inches apart, each having their right fists raised and shaking with anger. To a casual bystander, it would look like the two were on the verge of beating the ever-loving snot out of each other, but this wasn't true. In actuality, they were on the verge of an insult-hurling contest the likes of which the playground had never known. Wait, Ino-chan. One of the offended girl's friends came to try and restrain her from getting into what she thought would be an actual fistfight. I've heard about him. Yeah. Another shouted, restraining Ino's other arm. My dad told me. He said that if I saw a kid with whisker marks, that I should stay as far away from him as I could. He's dangerous, Ino-chan. Dangerous? The word echoed in his mind. The villagers had gone so far as to warn their children away from him. Go figure. But he hadn't thought it would be so painful. Their eyes had all been fixed on him in glares before. But now, their gazes wouldn't meet his eyes. He doubted their gazes even met his shadow. Except for one. Yamanka Ino was still looking at him face to face, eyes searching as if she saw something she couldn't quite figure out. All of Ino's friends were looking away from the new kid. But she kept looking into that face that fiercely hated bullies, and trying to find some way to explain how he was supposed to be dangerous. She looked at him and she didn't see a sheep, one of those vast numbers of kids that would just follow the crowd. She didn't see a loner, one of those kids that kept to themselves and acted like nothing was important. She saw a tough, stubborn, loud-mouthed blonde that wouldn't keep his opinion to himself if you paid him to shut up. She looked at him and saw someone that she could treat as an equal. Finding nothing of the answers she sought in that face, Ino eventually let the pack of girls drag her away. But Ino knew where she could get her answers. Her father paid special attention to human thought patterns and knew the real stories behind a lot of things. Naruto watched as the gaggle of girls departed. Of course he wanted them to leave, but not like that. He shook off the depressing thoughts and spun around, finally, to face the girl he'd stood up for. "Hey," he smiled. "You okay? Saved by the devil?" No. As Sakura looked up, she's sitting in the sand, he's standing. At the tired smile that her savoir was sporting, she realized something profound. He was just like her. "You're not bad at all, are you?" she asked wondrously. "People just don't like you because you're different, right? Because of your whisker marks." Huh? Naruto was genuinely surprised. The girl was connecting his whisker marks with her forehead. Hey, maybe if he didn't have these damn marks, his problem would be smaller, at least. "No, my problem's a little different from yours." "Oh, still alone with my big forehead, huh?" Sakura mumbled, gazing at the sand at her feet. "Well, not really," Naruto objected. "Sakura, Ed, she'd said that out loud." "I mean," Naruto continued, "there's you, your forehead, and me. Makes 3, he joked, right?" Sakura's heart plummeted. Her savior was picking on her too. She'd thought he would be nice to her. "Ah, right," she confirmed when prompted, nonetheless. "What?" He'd even begun laughing. And slowly, somehow, Sakura started to laugh too. It started out as a giggle, as she realized that she'd insulted her own forehead before he did. But then her giggles seemed to bring forth even more powerful gales of laughter from the boy before her, and soon they were both clutching their sides in mirth. It was then that she realized that he was laughing with her, not at her. Ah, she'd almost forgotten what it was like. Sakura laughed harder, as if making up for lost time. Somewhere between giggles and guffaws, Sakura told her hero her name. Giggle, Haruno, giggle again, Sakura. The pair laughed for a good while. In fact, at the end of this chuckle session, their cheeks were sore from smiling and their throats were dry from laughing. Noting this, Sakura showed her new friend to the water fountains, and the subject of sand castles came up. Sakura explained that the one that Ino destroyed had been her best work, and she was sure that she couldn't ever match it again. "Nope," Naruto immediately disagreed. "You can definitely do much better." "What? I just told you, it's impossible," Sakura complained. She was hesitant to sound rude and maybe drive her new friend away, but had he not been listening to her at all? Naruto pondered the situation at a little more length. "Nope, you're definitely wrong and I'm right." "He's defiantly not listening at all," Sakura's mind demanded. "Because, you see," Naruto lectured, "that sand castle was your best one, but now I'm here to help." "Huh? Why yeah," Sakura smiled. "We'll make the best sandcastle ever," Naruto shouted. "Yes," Sakura cheered. "The best ever, X later X." "Because, you see," Sakura mimicked in a fairly good, Naruto, voice, "that sand castle was your best one, but now I'm here to help." The girl waited a few seconds and took a deep breath. "Your ABSALOUTELY no help at all." Naruto sheepishly rubbed the back of his head. Before the pair was a mound of sand that could only be assumed to have been an attempt at something. Probably a sandcastle, but it was hard to tell. Sorry. I don't know what's wrong with me today." Instead of the best, he was pretty sure they'd made the worst sandcastle ever. Well, it was sort of a sandcastle, if you squinted really, really hard. "Ah, are you sick?" Naruto-kun? Sakura asked, concerned. All traces of earlier eardrum blowing rage long gone. Naruto saw fit to comment on this. Ah, Sakura-chan? Weren't you just yelling so loud that I had to cover my ears? Sakura visibly flinched. Ha ha, sorry Naruto-kun. It's just that you kept ruining the sandcastles for 2 hours straight. Over and over and over and over again. And I kind of exploded. Gomen. Naruto gave a short chuckle. No, don't worry. Ka-chan yells louder. I was just surprised, Naruto explained. Though maybe you shouldn't bottle up your rage and let it compound upon itself until the pressure of your suppressed emotions cause you to explode in a loud and frightening display of righteous anger upon the nearest viable target once your limit is reached, Naruto smiled. It'd probably be healthier for you, and me. Shush, shockingly detailed. Sakura observed in, well, shock. A sweat drop rolled down the back of her head unnoticed. Hey, yeah. You could even cause your suppressed anger to reach such a point that, in order to find an outlet, your mind subconsciously creates a second personality that openly displays its emotions in the ways that you secretly want to, but don't. And then it will stay inside your head all day and yell things like, Shanene ro, enthusiastically while punching the air and making various other gestures. Naruto laughed. Sakura's sweat drop grew. Even more detailed. She shouted in disbelief. Yeah. Spooky, Inner Sakura agreed. Seeing the girl stare at him dumbstruck as she was, Naruto thought that maybe he'd gone too far. Medic nin humor, sorry. That's all right. Omake, the months that passed by before Hayatori's operation were not empty of events. Hayatori's room Good morning Tsunade-sama, the bedridden Hyuga greeted, turning her head towards the doorway. I hear your son training and playing outside all the time, you should be proud of him. Tsunade quirked an eyebrow. Who says I'm not? The ill Hyuga gave a weak laugh. Your mouth is as smart as ever Tsunade-sama, Hayatori observed, before wincing and holding her head gingerly. Of course, Tsunade replied, for all the world as if the person she was casually talking to didn't have an uncontrolled cancerous growth at the back of her brain. But your son, Hayatori brought up again. He really is strong. Yeah. HMPH. You haven't seen anything yet. His hard work is going to start becoming more noticeable soon. No, not that, Hayatori objected. I meant, here, she said, placing her hand over her heart. Please thank him for me. My little Hinata has never had anyone to play with. Thank him? Tsunade snorted. That guy won't want to hear it. I see. You're right. Tell him I'm sorry then, for thanking him when I had no place doing so, Hayatori asked. Hey. I'll relay your messages, Tsunade agreed. Ah, Tsunade-sama. Shizune interrupted. She normally wouldn't, but this was important. What did you mean when you said that Naruto-kun's hard work would become more noticeable? What, you don't know? Tsunade asked. What kind of apprentice are you? Shizune looked suitably embarrassed. Listen up, Shizune. I shouldn't have to explain this to you, Tsunade lectured. Don't you think it's weird that Naru-chan can pull off an imperfect form of my technique, but can't even walk up a tree? Of course. The difficulty level should be nothing to him, Shizune mumbled. That kid's first perception of his own chakra was when he was a baby and the QB's chakra was still mixing with his own. He didn't get the lock seal until he was 2. That guy had absolutely no natural concept of how to move his chakra once the ratio of chakra in his body suddenly switched to 100% all him, and stayed that way, Tsunade explained as she walked over to the window and gazed out, seeing if she could spot the little troublemaker training. She did. A normal person can simply focus on the need for their chakra to do something, and it'll respond. But Naruto can't do that. He has to focus on the chakra and try to move it on his own every single time. Every pitiful and slowly achieved scrap of chakra control that Naru-chan has, he's built from the very base up. Shizune's eyes widened in understanding. She joined her mentor in looking out the window at Naruto training. Naru-chan's understanding of his chakra's movement is more scientific. And he started off at a disadvantage, but he's just going to keep building on what he has and slowly, He'll definitely surpass the both of us, she smiled. Well, that's only if he continues to work hard. Shizune giggled. Heck, even Hayatori giggled, though it caused her head pains to increase. She'd heard him outside enough to say that he was probably not going to slow down his training anytime soon. The only reason Naru-chan can't walk up that stupid tree is because he doesn't think he can do it. It defies gravity and that throws him off. Being able to stay calm in extreme circumstances is also a part of chakra control, and for most people that do this training, walking up instead of forwards counts as an extreme circumstance. But it has a bigger effect with Naruto because we naturally overshadow him in the chakra control department, and the tree climbing exercise is a fairly big turning point. In short, Naru-chan only needs to climb up that tree once and he'll never fall off of one again. Trailing off, Tsunade noticed Naruto finish off his chakra and drag himself into the house they were living in at the Hyuga estate. She was surprised to spot him through the kitchen window soon after. Huh? What's the brat up to in the kitchen? He's sitting down, he's looking around, and now he's going for the kitchen cabinets. That's my Otautu. Shizune cried in despair. Nu! Out of my way, Shizune! Tsunade bellowed as she barreled past, or rather, through her assistant and down the hall. Oh my, Hayatori commented, not able to currently see, but certainly able to somewhat hear the sound of Shizune being flattened in Tsunade's mad dash out. Otautu. The roadkill that was Shizune suddenly and miraculously got up in a flash, surprising the hell out of all conventional logic-based expectations. Nu! Don't do it! She cried as she too scrambled out the door and barreled down the unsuspecting corridor. Ho residence. The house was quiet as Naruto tiptoed through. His adopted mother and sister had just holed themselves up in an unused room and slapped research room on the front of it this morning. Hinata was off doing something girly or other, and it had occurred to Naruto that now was the perfect time to try out something he'd been meaning to do. Nervous as all hell, Naruto tiptoed. No. He slinked, he glided towards the kitchen cabinets and sat down before them after giving his surroundings a thorough check, grinning mischievously. He carefully opened the cabinet so that it wouldn't make so much as a squeak, and took his prize. Huh, he sounded, placing the jar on the countertop and reaching for a saucer that was, conveniently, left on the countertop. He couldn't reach the overhead cupboards. I always wondered what the big deal about this stuff was. Why does Car-chan like it so much, anyway? The saucer had barely touched his lips when things went horribly wrong. Naru-chan. The voice of his enraged mother froze Naruto solid. His eyes widened to the size of small tennis balls. Hold still, the woman demanded, and proceeded to pull out a pocket camera and fiddle mercilessly with it. Damn, frontier technology my ass, not worth the goddamn. Nu! Came the anguished holler that could only be his Nei-chan. Oh, shit. While Naruto's adopted mother stood in the kitchen doorway huffing as if she'd just run through several solid wood walls and, with those wood chips in her hair, Shizune opted to dive straight through the window and send glass shards flying everywhere. Click. Damn it, Shizune. I just got the damn camera to work and you obstructed the hash. Plus. And $hash. Picture. Tsunade roared. A quiet whirring was heard and lo and behold, a picture of Shizune diving onto the floor in the middle of the frame with small pieces of Naruto with a sake saucer to his lips in the background where Shizune wasn't obstructing. Hearing the telltale whir, Shizune scrambled to her feet and snatched the developed picture out of the air. No evidence must exist, she cried before proceeding to consume the photo with gutso. URK, Nei-chan? Naruto was sweating, his Car-chan and his Nei-chan had arrived. He hastily distanced the saucer from his lips and started scrambling for an escape plan involving the egg timer, 2 salt shakers, a bottle of sake, and jumping out the destroyed window that his Nei-chan had broken in through. What the hell? Naru-chan moved to the left so I can have a clear picture, Tsunade demanded. No. Shizune hollered and tackled her mentor to the ground, where she opted to target the source of the problem and began to bite the ever-loving hell out of that camera. Naruto tried weakly. Things were looking really, really bad. Damn you Shizune, I can't see. What if he's drinking it right now? Oh, hell. Forget the picture, Tsunade yelled, throwing aside the camera, and Shizune with it. What are you waiting for? She demanded, standing in front of him. Drink already. You're not mad at all? Naruto asked in awe. Are you kidding? I was there the first time you opened your eyes, I was there for your first steps, I was there for your first word. She yelled. And I'll be damned if I'm not there for your first sip of sake. Naruto almost face-faulted. Leave it to his Car-chan. And when you grow up and get married, I'll even be expecting a videotape of your wedding night, Tsunade declared. What the hell does that mean? Naruto screamed, thoroughly freaked out. She was just saying that to emphasize her point, right? Right? It was then that Shizune rejoined the fray, broken wires and other camera parts dangling from her mouth, and tackled her mentor to the ground for the second time ever, Naruto getting caught up in it and hitting the floor as well. Gah! Tsunade grunted. She'd somehow managed to grab the sake saucer on the way down and she proceeded to try to move the sake to her son's lips despite the Shizune that was desperately screaming, "No!" and holding back her mentor's arm with both of hers, her body weight, some help from her Otautu who wanted nothing more than to just get out of there, and her left leg. She wasn't meeting with much success. Desperately, she switched to tactic number 2 and chomped down on her mentor's arm with gusto. Argh, grand fall in such a way, Naruto and Sakura spent the remainder of their morning in the sandpit. Some would say, what? That's boring. But the two kept each other company. Sakura told Naruto about herself, and Naruto returned the favor, though he did not say much about his status as both the Kyuubi's container and Yondaim's son. Still, while in the large sandbox tucked against one side of the academy building, the pair reached a grasp of the other's life and problems. Sakura was amazed at Naruto's travels, adopted parentage, and overall abilities. She was horrified to learn that his whisker marks were from the acts of a spiteful medic nin when he was a child. Naruto soon found Sakura to be quite intelligent and was supportive of her plight, not thinking that her forehead was really that bad at all. Naruto sighed in relief. It's finished. They had spent so much time working on sandcastles. In fact, the sun was setting in the background, and though the moon was nowhere to be seen, he could only guess that it would be only a matter of time now. Sakura giggled. Congratulations, Naruto-kun. You finally made a sandcastle. Eh? Just me? Naruto blinked. Don't say it as if you had nothing to do with it, he protested. Sakura deadpanned, grinning coyly. Who kept knocking things over? Who couldn't get the sand to come out of the bucket properly even once? Who kept spilling water on everything? She wheedled, almost bubbling in glee. Harmless teasing. It was a completely different thing from the sort she was used to being involved with. Much more fun, you see. Quite freeing, really. Naruto sweated. He couldn't find it in himself to counter the point. The pink-haired girl struck her, lecturing, pose. That's why this success is so amazing for Naruto-kun. She begun slowly, perhaps one could even say mockingly, clapping. Hakushu, hakushu. Hakushu, clapping hands, or, applause, an onomatopoeia, I think. Naruto's left eyebrow twitched. Sakura-chan's mean after all. The accused only giggled and begun playfully prodding Naruto's cheek. Don't be so silly, Naruto-kun. I'm really very proud of you. Congratulations. Banzai. She threw her arms up for effect. Naruto couldn't quite shake the feeling that he was being mocked. It was nice to see this bubbly side of Sakura-chan and all, but Naruto's eye continued to twitch in annoyance from the clear mocking he was subject to. What was worse was that the twitching was starting to synchronize with the constant poking his cheek was receiving. Suddenly, the boy snapped his head to the side and made as if to catch Sakura's finger in his teeth on its next poke. Sakura, eek! Ed and pulled her finger away as Naruto playfully chomped on the empty air. As she danced away giggling, she stuck out her tongue. Hey! But how is it, seriously? Naruto queried, scratching the back of his head. Sakura looked at the object in question. Without a doubt, it could be described in a single word: mediocre. It looks wonderful, Naruto-kun. And it was true. Ask any parent that has received a crudely crayoned sketch of themselves from their child, and they'll tell you, the story behind the art matters. The happy times behind that sandcastle's creation were recorded in Sakura's mind, and it made it impossible for her to say mediocre. He, yeah? Naruto grinned sheepishly. Is it the best ever? Sakura giggled. Are you kidding? No way. Naruto thought he should probably be angry, but he soon found his own chuckles joining Sakura's anyway. The two were grinning at each other when it happened. A large portion of wall had dislodged from the rest of the building and made to come crashing down in a solid slab thrice either child's size, with only a faint crumbling sound as warning. It began its descent from the third floor slowly, but, in gaining momentum, was soon spelling inescapable death with a glaring clarity. Sakura's eyes widened in shock, not horror. Her young mind was too thrown in surprise at the event to process the repercussions of it, and her body froze up as if a deer in the headlights. Naruto was no such case. Sakura-chan. Having wasted no time, the boy quickly barreled Sakura to the ground and braced his arms on the sand at either side of her head, knees on either side of her waist as he looked at her with relief on his face. But instead of seeing a mirroring image of relief on his playmate's face, he saw terror. It was then, in that sparse space between seconds, that he noticed that Sakura's eyes weren't fixed on him, they were fixed behind him. The sickening sound that accompanied the slab of wall slamming to a halt on her friend's back would continue to ring in Sakura's ears for days to come. After that thunderous clap, the world seemed very quiet to Sakura, save for her friend's labored breathing. The world seemed very still, save for his arms as they shook under the strain, the weight on top of him only pushing his palms further into the soft sand. She probably would have been traumatized by the situation, if her now twice-over savior wasn't looking at her so reassuredly. For that had hurt. Hell, it still hurt. The pain in his back made no sign to fade away anytime soon, and neither did the pain in his arms and legs. He was grateful that they had been on a soft, buffering surface like this sand, but even so his arms were shaking under the strain of sustaining the added weight above him. He tried to give the girl under him a reassuring look. Yet the weight above him was relentless. He thought he might slip soon, and what then? Would both he and his friend be crushed slowly and painfully? Oh, hell no! Looking into Sakura's petrified emerald eyes, he decided that right now, her life was certainly his responsibility. He had to protect her, he had to. With a tremendous cry of effort, he managed to slide the slab to one side and continue to push against it, effectively shoulder charging it into falling away from them and onto the sand away from the pair, where it finally gave up and fractured into pieces. Panting, he caught his breath as he looked at his hands, which were, oddly enough, still shaking. However, it was strange. Hadn't he tried to tackle Sakura out of the way? And the piece of wall did not break upon impact with him, yet it fell to pieces as he dropped it to the sand. Without warning, Naruto's gaze left the broken slab as his head snapped up to the building and saw the corresponding hole in the wall. He also saw a male figure, face obscured by shadows, briefly, before he disappeared into the building. Naruto didn't miss the glint of light reflecting off of the shadow's Konoha forehead protector. And it was both odd and sad, but Naruto couldn't honestly say he was that surprised. All he could think was, he won't try a second time, not for now. He's retreated already. The sound of Sakura shakily getting to her feet soon had Naruto by her side, helping her up and supporting her, as she seemed quite shaken. Are you all right, Sakura-chan? In way of answer, Sakura hurled herself into the boy's chest. I was scared. I'm sorry, no, she mumbled into his chest, protesting. You saved me again, Naruto-kun, so I'm fine. Naruto was sure he didn't deserve her thanks, but the words he would have said, as such, died in his throat as Sakura turned her face to smile up at him. He hadn't noticed the bloody smears on her face before. Sakura-chan, are you hurt? I'm. Cough. Sakura didn't let go of her friend as, involuntarily, the blonde brought his hands to his mouth as he coughed. Pulling back, The blood now on Naruto's still shaking hands answered a few questions. Oh, oh, he looked at his friend's face, not even remembering when he must have coughed blood onto it. He looked at his shaking hands and thought back to all the clumsiness that he'd been displaying when he'd started making sand castles. He recalled that it had been harder to push that piece of wall off than it really should have. Oh. Another cough, a little more blood. The last time he'd coughed, Sakura had looked concerned. Now she looked surprised. Sakura-chan. Akai, A-N. Akai, is, red, what? Naruto's eyes widened. Turning his head, he looked into one of the dusty school windows and saw his crimson-eyed half-reflection staring back at him. And his pupils had elongated into slits, like a fox. Oh, the sun set at last, and as Naruto looked up to the sky he noticed the moonless sky. But it wasn't that the moon was late or hidden. Rather, there would be no moon tonight. New moon, the boy tiredly whispered to himself. X recap. Chapter 2 X Naruto nodded. Nei-chan picked out the day. She said making it work once every new moon would be more convenient. It's not bad, but I can't fight or train very well. I feel sick and cough up blood a lot. X end recap. X the blonde was suddenly overcome by a wave of dizziness. The world blurred before his eyes as standing became difficult. Naruto-kun. And suddenly, Sakura wasn't holding onto him as her emotional pillar of support anymore. She was holding onto him to help keep him standing. Sorry Sakura-chan. Could you help me walk home? Sakura complied, of course, and the two were soon trudging down the street. Sakura dutifully helped to support her friend's weight, even while acting as one would expect a concerned and fussy girl to act. It was slow going to say the least, and taxing for both parties involved. Naruto did his best to keep his eyes downcast for the trip, hiding his crimson eyes though the street was all but deserted. The deserted street was not so surprising. There was a festival going on, after all. And for the majority of the village, the whole day's commotion was focused around the city center. By a twist of fate, the shortest path to the Hyuga sector would take the pair just past the outermost edges of the activities. Naruto-kun, what's wrong? Sakura asked her friend when he suddenly stopped. She was concerned for him. The hand on her shoulder for support had been shaking so much during their trek. On top of that, Naruto-kun said that they couldn't ask adults for help. Naruto stared at the image. He'd never seen the like. He'd be more concerned about exposing his eyes, which were more likely crimson than not, but the rest of the village was similarly attentive to the performance occurring at the raised stage, and therefore had their backs to him. Sakura-chan, what's that? The bubblegum-haired girl followed her friend's gaze to the stage, where the spectacular sight of Konoha's fire dragon dance was taking place. Every major country had a dragon dance, where the performers, no less than 3, would take a specially made costume resembling a dragon and either walk through the streets in it, or stay on stage. Fire Country's dragon costume was red, of course, but also gold and green. The long, serpentine costume was meant to thrown over 6 members' backs, all working in practiced unity to give the most realistic representation of movement, barring the legs that were easily seen under the costume, but that was beside the point. Naruto-kun, you don't know it? It's the Fire Country's dragon dance. Naruto was about to reply, but was overcome with another coughing fit. When he drew back the hand he'd covered his mouth with, the one not on Sakura-chan's shoulder, he saw the blood, as expected. But when he looked back up to the stage, at that moment the performers twisted the dragon costume and, for a moment, Naruto believed that the red, gold, and green dragon had just snapped its head towards him. Naruto-kun. Sakura's surprised cry was the last thing he heard before the world blurred into black. 4x unconscious domain X, where am I? Looking left and right, Naruto found himself in a world of pitch black. The sole discerning feature of the landscape was the roaring bonfire in the distance before him. Sakura-chan. He yelled loudly, where did you go? But his voice did nothing more than echo into oblivion. And in response, the bonfire uncurled itself and bared its fangs. And suddenly he realized that it was no bonfire at all, but a beast of fire. A dragon. A real one. Though it was far away, he could see the detail of it well. Easily 2 stories tall, despite being hunched over, it bore little resemblance to the dragon dance he'd seen moments ago. Apparently taking notice of him, the large, yet lithely formed creature of living fire charged at him. Naruto's eyes widened as, halfway to reaching him, the dragon's speed redoubled, body of living flame zigzagging left and right through the inky black with a speed that made it seem to be nothing more than a trail of orange-red. Naruto's eyes could barely keep up. Which was why, when the dragon failed to zigzag, and instead made a beeline for Naruto with a burst of speed that was far greater yet, Naruto throwing his arms before his face in pure reflex was the only form of defense he had. The jaws came crashing down. The world exploded in white. Naruto dropped to his knees on the ground. A dirt path now, and not an empty void of black. He panted for breath as he clutched his head in one hand. Such an acute headache pain. What was that place? And that thing, such speed and power. Like it was built specifically to attack. Was that what a fire dragon should be? He faintly noted that Sakura was by his side in the dirt path. Naruto-kun. Are you alright? Naruto-kun. Sakura-chan. Yeah, I'm fine. I just blacked out for a while, he mumbled. An odd dream. Thank goodness. Sakura exclaimed, relieved. I was worried. You were just standing still and staring like that for so long. Why yeah? Naruto mumbled. His condition on the day of the new moon, was it getting worse? It shouldn't be, but to just suddenly black out like that. Yes. The dragon dance is done now, already, she explained, wanting Naruto to understand the gravity of just how long he'd been all but zombie-like. They're showing the battle between Yondaga-sama and the Kyuubi now. Tenten looked up to the stage, and was filled with pride. Her mother was truly amazing. One day, she too, would be so amazing, she just knew she would be. She was her mother's daughter, after all. Earlier. Tenten-chan. Okar-san. Ara. There you are. Now how many times have I told you not to play with my kunai? But I want to be a great weapon mistress like Okar-san. I'll show all the stupid boys that girls can be strong too. Hi, but what of your father? His skill at the forge surpasses my skill with weapons. Well that's true. Right? And he'd be so disappointed if you didn't take up his craft, you know. Well, Otu-san and Okar-san should just have another baby already. He can be the smith and I can be the weapon mistress. Why can't I get a little brother or sister already? That, ha, Okar-san is blushing. Hi, Tenten-chan. Now could you just help me with my costume now? Okay. Okar-san, are you going to perform for the whole village again? Present her mother, Kyugu Hato was there, playing the part of Kyuubi, not for her acting skills, but for her mastery of armed combat. Her mother's proficiency with the wrist-mounted claws was not high in comparison to her abilities with other weapons, much less the over-large and decorated version that she sported now, representing the Kyuubi's claws. But it was said that if it had a blade, then Kyugu Hato was its master. Her opponent was a Yondaga costumed performer with a sword, though it was known that the real Yondaga hadn't used one, and would have already lost. But it was a play, after all. Both performers stood on stage, wearing masks and overly frilly, and flashy, costumes of the ones they represented. There were no henge techniques used on stage. It would be too real. Too close to home. To this day, people were still that afraid of the Kyuubi's image and the fated battle that must have taken place. The crowd watched in rapt attention, and cheered when finally, Yondaga was victorious, piercing the Kyuubi's stomach with his blade. Tenten watched in horror as Yondaga stumbled backwards, looking at his blade dumbly, and her Okar-san's blood spilled to the floor. Okar-san. The girl scrambled to her mother's side. It was at this time that the crowd began to think that this wasn't a part of the play. Naruto had just been helped up from his blackout episode by Sakura-chan when he saw the actor Yondaim's blade bury itself into Kyuubi's stomach. The boy's eyes widened immediately, even as the crowd cheered. That's real blood, shit. What a predicament. Today, Naruto decided, was just one hell of a craptastic day. I made a friend today, and finished the tree climbing training. Though both were from my effort and all this bad stuff is due to the day just being incredibly craptastic, nothing for it. Ne, Sakura-chan, a pause in the form of a mildly bloody coughing fit ensued. Listen, I'm going to go now. Don't follow me, okay? He took his hand from her shoulder, and worked his way out of her grip. Glancing over his shoulder, he shot her a brief smile and said, thanks. Naruto, stumbling and head held down to hide his eyes, made his way through the crowd. Sakura watched her friend depart in concern. Naruto-kun, dutifully, she stood, but didn't follow. For somehow, Naruto managed to get through the crowd quickly enough that none had identified and tried to stop his progress. Most likely because they were just figuring out that the QB performer was wounded for real. He scrambled onto the stage, cursing his body's weakness as even that action taxed him gravely. Still, he made it to the bun-haired girl in time to catch her hand. Don't try to move her, he commanded. And though they were the same age, his grave air and crimson eyes that said, I know what I'm doing, had her complying. It was good that the woman's mask was taken off, Naruto decided, but beside that there wasn't anything good about the situation. Her spinal cord was hit. He would have to heal her. Even then, he could not say if this woman would ever recover completely. But that wasn't the real problem. Time was the problem. This woman was dying. He'd need to do it by Ijutsu, and he frankly didn't know if he could. For this to have to happen on a new moon day. And where were Konoha's medics? Were none of the spectators Messid Nins? But as of yet, none had joined him on stage and time really was running out. A craptastic end to a disasterific day. Ijutsu is medical jutsu. The blonde worked his hands into the dragon seal, though his twitching hands made it difficult, and focused. Suddenly, a chakra aura lit up around his kneeling form. Shit! It was blue and red. Could he pull of a jutsu with a mix of his and QB's chakra? If it had a dauntingly low chakra control requirement, then maybe. Could he pull off a successful Ijutsu? No way. Naruto squeezed his eyes shut and gritted his teeth in concentration. Could he pull this off? Statistically, not likely. Would he try? Naruto himself didn't know what he'd do if he ever lost his Car-chan, but that little girl was losing her mother right now. Hell yeah, he'd try. The boy grunted in effort and the blue chakra lit up in response, seemingly forcing the red away, for now. Shit. The pain was unreal. Naruto didn't even want to know what the hell he was doing to his chakra coils. But 8 hand seals later, his right palm was covered in a soft green glow and that was what was important right now. It was odd. He could do this but he couldn't heal his own burned lips without an ointment half a year ago. He'd foregone learning the burn healing Ijutsu for so long because he could already use the ointment version. Instead, he'd broadened the number of things he could heal. Now he knew that he'd made the right choice. It was then that Naruto leaned forwards and plunged his hand into Kyugu Hato's stomach. It was an almost nauseating experience to him, but he'd been doing medic nin training for so long. This had to be done. What is he doing? Shit. The crowd, he's finishing her off. No. He just needed to touch the spinal cord directly. Horrible. What a horrible child. You're wrong. If he said anything, could it help? Or would the crowd only want to hate him more? Those whisker marks, it's the demon child. This wasn't how things were supposed to go at all. He was supposed to reduce their anger, little by little. They look darker than before. Honestly, I'd be better off not doing this. But there's an injured person here, she's going to die. And I wanted to become a medic nin. That's why, there's no choice. I must heal the injured. The spinal cord, it's almost healed. Will I have the strength to close the wound on her stomach? His eyes too, I saw them. They're red, like its eyes. Fear? Yes, their words were always angry, but in their eyes there was always this look. What should we do? What should we do? All this time, had that look been one of fear? Naruto withdrew his now bloody hand and reached into his ever-present coat, withdrawing a long roll of bandages. Alas, it fell from his weak hands. Here, he offered, picking up the roll again. Bandage up your Okar-san, I'm too weak. Give her lots of liquids when she wakes up, she's lost a lot of blood. Thank you, Tenten responded, from the depth of her heart. She didn't know who he was, or why they shouted demon, but he had saved her mother. Somehow, she'd been sure he would, right from the start. When he looked at her that first time, it had been as if he knew just how scared she was to lose her mother. Naruto shot her a brief smile. He should have said, "You're welcome," or something, but no words felt appropriate just then. The blonde boy tried to stand towards the crowd, but he fell back to his knees before he was even halfway up. He was low on blood as well, and he just burned a lot chakra, placing those weaknesses on top of his already worsening condition. He's weak now. A simple phrase. Not even a full sentence. Just a phrase. But with that, the first stone was cast and all hell broke loose. Sakura watched, silently distraught. This morning Naruto had told her that his problems were a little different from hers. And this was what he meant. He didn't have a group of belittling bullies. He had a village that would call him monster. She had been saved by him. He caught the rock meant to hurt her, and then he stood up for her. And now he was being assailed by stones, cups, empty glass bottles, whatever was in people's reach. And there was no one there to catch the stone meant to hurt him. Should she go up there? But Naruto-kun had told her to wait, and what could she do? She was just a normal girl. Just a normal girl. Just normal, Naruto-kun. Hinata cried, though the words barely reached her own ears, over the shouts of the crowd. Naruto-kun. Her meek nature was gone now, blasted away by the sight before her. Her friend was hit over and over and over by anything and everything that could be thrown. Normally, perhaps she would become self-convinced that the best she could do would be to find Tsunade, and perhaps she'd be right. But an empty glass bottle had just shattered on her precious friend's face, the glass shards cutting into him as they flew past or were lodged there, and right now she didn't know what she was thinking. But she had this urge, this impossible to describe urge that was so strong that, perhaps, it didn't even consciously register. She had this urge to get up there and, for lack of any other method, cover Naruto-kun's body with her own. Because, simply, if the empty glass bottles were hitting her, then they weren't hitting Naruto-kun. In response to this urge, her body moved on its own, lunging forwards. And when her father grabbed her out of the air and restrained her with his arms, she fought him. Not with Juken. Her arms were pinned. But she thrashed and kicked and screamed, and bit. And her father was actually quite impressed to see such a thing from his daughter. But he did not let go. If they were to get involved, then the Junins, and Anbu would also get involved. And amongst their ranks were many that would attack Naruto as shinobi attack, and few, if any, that would protect him. Naruto was pinned to the spot. He was too tired, sick, and hurt to move. When the rain of projectiles had begun, he'd managed to stand up, somehow. More spectacularly, he'd managed to stay on his feet more often than not, right up until the brown-haired girl had dragged her mother away from behind him to safety. But now he could not move if his life depended on it. Which it didn't. See? He was already as good as dead. Faintly, he thought he heard Hinata-chan's voice. Sayonara, Hinata-chan, Sakura-chan, Ka-chan, Ne-chan, Ero uncle. Naruto's vision was fogging, his cuts were bleeding and the rain of projectiles continued. The ordeal had hurt before, but at the moment it didn't feel nearly as painful. It didn't feel like much anything at all, and even that feeling was becoming less and less. Still, his lips split into a satisfied smile even as the barrage continued to knock into his body. He smiled as if he had something truly great to be proud of. Ka-chan, I saved someone's life today. Does that make me a medic nin yet? The world blurred into black for it was quite a scene indeed. 1 second Naruto was propped up against the backdrop scenery of a forest, alone, with numerous injuries, and in the process of acquiring more. The next second, Tsunade was there, hell burning in her eyes and throwing a punch to the empty air before anyone could blink. And as this punch reached full extension, a massive amount of chakra was molded, collected, and released from Tsunade's fist in a single pulse. It not only knocked the airborne projectiles away, it also knocked down the crowd within 30 feet, and shut up the rest. I definitely can't trust this place, after all. Damnable Konoha. First Nawaki, then Dan. You won't get the third. My Naru-chan, you'll never take him as long as I breathe. 4x Unconscious Domain X, where, the boy looked around. An empty corridor greeted him. Somehow, this place felt very lonely. I was, is this, like before? With the dragon? Or perhaps, this is what death is like. The boy began to walk. 4. Otautu. My precious Otautu. Shizune cried, sobbing as she nestled her adopted brother's unconscious but still bleeding form. Shizune had been only a second behind her mentor, and upon seeing her brother had proceeded to remove the glass from his face and heal him in general. Anbu formed a large, yet tightly knit circle around the mother, sister, and child. 4x Unconscious Domain X, I sensed something, a chakra signature, left. Still questioning where the hell he was, and wanting some kind of answer, the boy turned left. 4. Tsunade-sama, please disarm yourself and place your hands in the air, and Anbu, presumably the captain, instructed. Actually, they would normally bind the potential threat's movement with rope, ninja wire, and certain metallic restraints. Problem was, no one could expect any of that to make a significant difference at all, considering that this was the woman that could open the grand gates of Konoha single-handedly. Of course, Tsunade didn't really have or particularly need armament on her, either, but any reduction to her threat level at all would be welcomed right now. The civilians had all left by now, save for a pink-haired girl that just seemed dead set not to budge at all come hell or high water. And both Junon and Chunin had arrived on the scene, some of them being professional, calm, cool, almost cold, and just awaiting orders, others of their number frothing at the mouth to kill something whisker-marked and red-eyed, though they did a good job of not showing it. The Hokage was on the scene as well. The old man had been with Tsunade in the Hokage Tower, as his former student had been threatening to do horrible things to his anatomy if he didn't find her son with his crystal ball, fast. The Anbu captain spoke up once again. Tsunade-sama, you'll have to come with us for questioning, the captain calmly informed. Tsunade's reply didn't miss a beat, and Naru-chan. You will each be taken to separate areas for questioning. Like hell, Tsunade growled. The Anbu tensed, senbon needles were in their hands as if by magic. Tsunade's fingers on her right hand twitched with apparently nervous energy. We're leaving Konoha now, the Sannin said strongly. But these guys were Anbu and their assassination skills likely topped hers, though she was a Sannin. How many of those senbons were aimed at her? And how many were aimed at her son? 4x Unconscious Domain X, seal, Naruto read aloud. Such a small piece of paper, for such a big cage. Small, but the material is very high grade, an echoing, powerful voice floated throughout the room. Who's there? Who? Oh, just the local inmate, Jailer-san. There it was. The darkness behind the bars dissipated to reveal a gigantic figure of a fox with 9 tails. The Kyuubi had been depicted as an ugly, uncouth thing, but the image before Naruto was nothing if not the picture of primal, animalistic power and grace. Kyuubi. The fox was sitting on its haunches, staring down at him with those blood-red eyes. A massive claw rammed into the bars and almost made it to him. Oh. You do not flinch. Flinch and do what? Naruto retorted. I'd rather keep my footing steady than stumble backwards and lose it. You won't run? As if I'd show my back to a demon. Well, what a curious man-kit you are, Jailer-san. You certainly have either idiocy or bravery to spare. Shut up. You bastard, you killed my father, my biological mother, shot my chakra control to hell, and gave me a village's worth of hate. Well, should I care? A small human with his small problems. Why do you need a father? A mother? If your control is bad, then increase it. If a village hates you, then crush it. Ha, ha ha, I should have expected, what? Such a big demon. Such an ancient demon, but yet you don't get it at all. What? Such a general view, aren't you just an idiot? My little human problems, My little human victories. My little human longing and my little human happiness. To experience these types of things is what it means to live. To deal with these types of things, each time trying to do better than the last, that is what it means to grow. An idiot like you wouldn't get it. A village hates you so you crush it. And then what? You'll prove that you're strong, but what else? Not a goddamn thing. Not caring about having a father. A mother? You idiot. How can you not care? Ignoring it doesn't make you strong, it makes you a coward. QB. You only have your strength left to be proud of, don't you? How dare you? I dare because I'm not willing to run away like you. You shot my control to hell, so I did increase it, but I didn't feel nothing. I felt like shit knowing that it was only me that was handicapped. I felt lower than dirt whenever I compared myself to Ka-chan or Ne-chan's level. But I'm dealing with that. I'm overcoming that feeling of dread and despair. I'm beating it. And I'm stronger for it. And I can stand proud because of that. But a coward like you must have stopped growing a long time ago. There was a lengthy pause, as time seemed to have frozen. Neither child nor demon moved. Then finally, one spoke. Perhaps, so, you'll admit it, my strength, always, it was unlimited. Without end. Without horizon. Never once did it stop growing. When it all began, I was alone. In the demon realm there was just me and space. Empty space. Then there was a world on which to live. What created it? Perhaps the realm itself was lonely. But as more demons appeared and grew, one thing never changed. Always, I was the strongest. From the very beginning I was without peer. Without equal. I fought, I grew, I learned, sometimes I would be challenged, but I was always faster, stronger, swifter, smarter. One day, they called me king, then, they called me God. Yet, I wonder why, none of these things ever made me feel satisfied. For Sarutobi saw that look in his former student's eye. This was bad. Tsunade had been backed into a wall with her adopted son's life on the line. She'd lost too, and if she thought that there was even a chance that she'd lose her son here as well, then she would eradicate that chance with any firepower she could possibly pull out. Right now there wasn't a price on this earth that she wouldn't pay. And she would raze most of Konoha to the ground, or simply flee out the front gates with her son, whichever was the surer bet. She didn't gamble with his son's life. She'd made that very clear in their meeting the very day she'd arrived in Konoha. Sarutobi hadn't had much contact with his former student over the past years, but he knew that Tsunade knew that Anbu's skill at assassination, and willingness to use it, topped hers. But she was a Sannin and they were not. He knew that Tsunade knew just how blindingly fast Anbu could act. And he knew that Tsunade knew that she was faster. The tension was dangerous. The Anbu captain made to throw his senbon needle, aimed to incapacitate, not kill, but Tsunade's chakra had already been molded and built up within her right fist, the one that had supposedly been twitching in nervous energy. Stop. The Hokage commanded. He didn't want to know just what Tsunade was planning with the metaphorical chakra nuclear warhead she'd gathered in her right fist without the Anbu noticing. Tsunade, Sarutobi sighed, feeling old and tired. He looked his former student straight in the eye and saw a mother that had just seen her son attacked by a mob and wanted him to be safe and well. And Sarutobi felt sick. That mob was from his village, which he watched over. It was his mob. Tsunade, the old man bowed his head sharply. I'm sorry. On behalf of Konoha. I'm so sorry. Tsunade let out the breath she'd been holding. We're leaving. Of course, Sarutobi's head remained bowed. The ANBU's heads were bowed as well. And the join-ins, and the tune-ins were the same image. For when the Hokage bows his head on behalf of the village, all shinobi must bow their heads. We won't trouble you further. Tsunade gingerly took her son from Shizune and looked her old sensei in the eye. Sensei, I don't think I'll ever really forgive Konoha. But if you say, Gomen Nasai, on behalf of just yourself, then I'll consider it. Tsunade said this, frankly and honestly, then turned to leave. Shizune bowed hastily once to the Hokage and followed. And just like this, not even going back to the Hyuga compound for their things, the Huas left Konoha. Omake Jiraiya actually showed up at the Hyuga compound one day, though he could not stay for longer than a day. Jiraiya-sama, we'll need proof of your identity, a stiff Hyuga guard informed, stiffly. Rather than be discouraged, Jiraiya chuckled briefly and upped his egotistical gauge by 100%. He put one hand before him and scrunched his face up to look especially intimidating, the man known in every country in the world. He hopped to the left. Men say his name in envy. Women sigh his name in wistfulness. He hopped to the right. The fantastic Toad Hermit. And back to the left again. The unbeatable Sannin. Right? The ultimate author. Left. The wonderful. Now this was different. This time he stomped his foot as if he were a sumo wrestler. The spectacular. And the other foot, Jiraiya-sama. He held up a copy of his latest novel for either emphasis, or just because he loved to show the damn thing off and enjoyed bringing more comparatively innocent people over to the perverted side of the world. Unexpectedly, the guard turned to his companion, who was also a guard. Do you have Naruto-sama's list? Yes. Here. The first guard produced a pen and began to go down the list. Silver hair. Check, the guard announced. Introduction dance that involves hopping, talking of women, and seemingly random lines of self-praise. Check, he continued, straight-faced and serious, as a guard should be. Picture in a perverted book. Check, one or more slap marks on his face. There is no slap mark. What the hell is that thing? Jiraiya shouted, pointing at the offending list. Obviously, he'd picked up how to swear from his nephew, to a point. This is Naruto-sama's checklist list. We are under explicit orders not to allow you to pass unless you meet the requirements, the guard stoically informed. You what? Whose orders? The Sannin demanded. Naruto-sama's orders, of course, the guard informed. What? That brat? That brat? He informed us that, Byakugan or whatever, if the guy doesn't even meet these requirements then he's definitely not my uncle. Now please, if you would be so kind as to leave the premises. The guard politely dismissed. Wait, Jiraiya said, holding up his hand in a stop gesture. It's a genjutsu. Excuse me. The guards blinked. The Sannin sighed deeply. That brat just knew him too damn well. Kai? The genjutsu lifted and, lo and behold, Jiraiya's previously unslapped face was now littered in not only slaps, but bumps, bruises, and footprints as well. There. Now let me in already, I have a nephew to beat up. The Hyuga considered. Yes, the genjutsu release has confirmed check number 4. Also, the bumps, bruises, and footprints confirm check numbers 5 through 7. That brat. Alright, so let me in already, the Sannin demanded. The guards looked at each other, briefly. No, the reply was in stereo. Jiraiya's eye began to twitch, though it was difficult to see, since that particular eye was so swollen. Excuse me. Are you saying that I still don't pass that stupid test? No, you pass the test, the Hyuga guard on the left informed. I just rather believe that your current face is the genjutsu. Why you what? Jiraiya stuttered in disbelief. Yes. You see, I have a wife, the guard informed, as if that revealed anything at all. And I have a sister, the other added. And, Jiraiya ground out. And really, I'd just rather you weren't anywhere near the same general area as my wife at all, the first guard informed. I have to protect her honor, after all. Same here for my sister, guard number 2 added helpfully. This, you. Jiraiya yelled. He glared furiously between the two seemingly unassuming guards. You guys are actually real bastards, aren't you? No, not really, Hyuga guard number 2 denied. We prefer to think of ourselves as New Age guards that solve our problems proactively and in a non-violent manner. Yes, the other agreed. Fighting without fighting and all that. You what? Jiraiya blustered. You're pretending that you don't know who I am. Oh yes. Well, it's all very New Age. Reject reality and pretend your problem's something else and eventually some other person will deal with it, Guard 1 informed. It's all in the handbook, Guard 2 added. Handbook? You say, Jiraiya couldn't handle this. Such a ridiculous, yet somehow believable scenario. Now he pissed off and exasperated. He could feel the headache coming on. Guards these days. Nonviolent guarding. What was this world coming to? Yes. Naruto-sama's handbook, Part-2 supplied. Naruto. That did it. Jiraiya felt the headache. It was a big one. He wondered, was that nephew of his trying to corrupt the world? It's a terrific handbook. We used to just be a pair of boring guards that used to debase ourselves to such beastly acts as patrolling and defending against intruders. Guard one side. Oh yes. It did horrible things to my feet, that patrolling. I used to get blisters. Guard 2 reminisced. Now we just stand around all day and dismiss our problems in various underhanded and selfish ways, Guard 1 summarized. Ah, yes. Times are good, the other agreed. Jiraiya stared at them. Really, soon he would probably just walk by them. Truly, there must have been some more reasonable guards inside. Fantastic handbook. Changed our lives, Guard 1 mused. Yes. And the title's so appropriate, as well, the other agreed. What's the title? Jiraiya, grumbling, asked. Oh that, Guard 1 blinked. It's, How to Trick an Idiot Ero Uncle. What? Jiraiya screamed. Naruto dehengered and dismissed his hengered bunshin. 2 puffs of smoke later, the blond boy stood grinning maniacally at his uncle and looking like he was simply the cleverest damn thing in the world. Bwha ha ha ha, you're such an idiot, you beat up Ero Barker, in punishment for being such a useless pervert. You have just been pranked. Jiraiya, to his credit, only screamed, die, and lunged at his nephew. The brat had been those guards all along. Naruto proceeded to nimbly run for his life. Somehow, he managed to get the time to stick out his tongue and go, nya nya, as he'd always wanted to do that at least once. Hinata had been hit with uncontrollable giggle fits up in the room she was using for study. Her nature might have had her been concerned about the white-haired man, or condemning for trickery, but, if it was Naruto-kun, then she would have faith in him. So she could giggle freely. Neji watched the blond boy scamper out of Jiraiya's warpath in awe as they passed him. As I thought, Neji muttered to himself, wonderingly. Naruto-sama is a true prodigy genius. To force even a Sannin to get this serious. Aftermath. The Huas had a long walk out of Konoha territory. On that walk, Tsunade moved with a forceful step. Chiefly amongst the emotions she felt were concern, sorrow, and anger. She was angry at both Konoha for what the village had done to Naruto, and at herself for letting it get as far as it had. She had a responsibility of love towards her son and she had failed it. It was that simple. And for Tsunade, excuses, valid though they may be, did not count for much in the face of that. The next patrol that crossed that path would report a trail of destroyed trees, boulders, and small rock faces that had, supposedly, gotten in the woman's way. The air was heavy as the Huas trekked onwards, 2 conscious and 1 not, and met a fork in the road leading to a large town that they had stayed at once before. Tsunade did not pause in her stride as she passed the town. "We're not stopping yet," was her only words. It was not that she was realistically expecting trouble to follow them or any such thing, not now that Naruto had a Sannin such as herself holding him. Rather, she just wanted to get farther away from what had wounded her son. Her unease would not diminish until they had doubled the distance. Shizune did not complain, though she had not slept or rested in over 24 hours due to the operation on Hinata's mother and the later searching, finding, and leaving with her Otautu. But Shizune could not feel the pain in her feet, stomach, or back. The suffering within her heart was far too consuming. Eventually, the Huas made it to a small, unexceptional village and rented the largest room they could, which was actually not large at all, at the only hotel that was open that time of night. Through what remained of the night, Tsunade and Shizune stayed by Naruto's bedside. And when he regained consciousness in the morning, the boy was greeted by an array of reassurances such as, "You did the right thing," and, "Those bastards won't lay another finger on you," tight hugs, and tears right off the bat. For this, he was both very grateful and very relieved. It was noon by the time the Huas left the small hotel room. All were hungry, and made their way to the best-looking restaurant the little town had to offer, where Tsunade forcibly demanded that they be served many plates of rolled omelette, rice, and miso soup. They were then told that those items were only offered on the breakfast menu and not now, at noon. Tsunade had only replied that was exactly the point and had then glared with such menacing promises in her look that the Huas soon found themselves being served breakfast for lunch. They spoke much, but not a word about Konoha was said over that breakfast and, finishing their meals, Tsunade and Shizune determinedly led Naruto to the best day late birthday party one could manage when one is still recovering from extreme blood loss, and with only one sister and mother for company. That Naruto was not an emotional train wreck was a mark of inner strength and perseverance. Knowledge of the village's feelings about his existence was nothing new. His status as Kyuubi's container was never kept from him, never avoided by his family, and he had always had their acceptance. Even if a whole village would have him dead for that, it was a sure fact that his small but precious family did not feel the same. And so he tried to keep his self-image from being tainted by the words and actions of a mob. The civilians of his home village had attacked him. He was dealing with that. Time passed. Naruto sat atop a high cliff, staring blankly at the expanse of town before and below him. It was not Konoha. Konoha had been left behind weeks ago, like a bittersweet dream. He could scarcely think of the Hyuga compound without smiling at his memories of playing hide and seek among other things with Hinata-chan. And the times they would spend talking, or inquiring about what the other were doing, and so on. The Hyuga compound also brought to mind all the other Hyugas who had made a prudent point of giving him, at least outwardly, the benefit of the doubt with regards to his demonic threat level, perhaps due to his family name as a Ho, perhaps out of sheer Hyuga, almost stuck-up, discipline to authority and tradition. He could scarcely think of that sandbox tucked against one side of the academy building without smiling at his memories with Sakura, building sandcastles, talking, and just plain having fun. Lastly, he could scarcely think of the villages of Konoha without an involuntary wince and furtively checking his surroundings. Though he knew there would never be anything there, it was something he always did. Perhaps he was picking up his mother's sense of superstition, but on top of that stage, he had been at their mercy, of which they'd shown none. It was natural to retain a certain amount of uncertainty, he reasoned. Actually, the town below him was in the midst of a festival. And he could not stand to be there, as if there was an actual, almost nauseating, physical force that repelled him. His adopted mother and sister were at the apothecary, which was open even on such a day as this. He doubted they knew there was a festival today, and even if they did know, he doubted they would expect his reaction to it. Naruto was proud to be able to be supremely tough when he had to be, and it had been 2 weeks of concern and support already. He was fine most of the time. He really was. He was as close to acting normal as anyone could hope for acting, most of the time. It's just that on days like today when he's alone. A particularly strong wind blew. It was a much warmer day than any seen yet this week, but though Fire Country had a warm climate compared to others, it was the 24th of October, after all. The lone blonde-haired boy pulled his knees up to his chest in response to the chilly wind. He'd left his customary white jacket at home, the geeky one that he'd found himself wearing for its simple functionality. His gaze remained blank as he stared at the village beneath him. He only snapped out of his blank daze when he felt a newfound weight on his shoulders, a jacket, and it wasn't white. "Yo, brat. Ero uncle. You showed up." Jiraiya sat down beside his nephew. Of course he'd shown up. Naruto was probably surprised that he'd taken so long to appear, since the hermit had missed the boy's birthday. The spiky-haired Sannin indicated the jacket now draped on his nephew's shoulders. "Solid orange," he informed pointedly. "The single most extremely orange jacket ever designed in grass country, ever." He'd gotten it out of a bargain bin. With the local Pumpkin Day celebrations over, no one had wanted to buy the damn thing. In fact, perhaps no one had ever wanted to buy the damn thing, if the scandalous looks he had to endure were any indications. Yes, it was that orange. And he was hoping it would be just the thing to spark the kid right up. Naruto smiled. "Thanks Ero uncle. It's awesome." Jiraiya chuckled. Glad to have more proof of how great he was at, well, damn near everything. At least, that was how it was meant to sound. Yet Jiraiya's laughter felt hollow in his own ears. "What, Brat. That's it. No, it's the best birthday present ever. Or, you Ero Barker, it's the wrong damn size. No randomly screaming, orange. Until I get a headache. I just gave you the most orange piece of clothing you've ever seen. Jiraiya trailed off, now permitting himself to sound worried. And you didn't even flail around like a chipmunk on a sugar high. Naruto. Are you sick or what? Though of course the Sannin knew what was wrong. Where else would he have been for the past 2 weeks than in Konoha? Arriving there a mere day late for his nephew's birthday, he'd come home to a living nightmare. Hearing what had transpired had been tough, but Jiraiya was tougher than that. Dealing with the aftermath was tougher, but Jiraiya, again, was tougher even than that. But that dull, melancholy look in Naruto's form pierced straight through any toughness the Sannin could have. Naruto sighed and stood up. Jiraiya stood up as well, his form dwarfing the smaller blonde. Regardless, the boy held his uncle's gaze. Ero uncle, I want you to teach me. Ah, Jiraiya thought, looking into blue eyes that had come to a resolution. Those eyes were tinged with sadness, fear, and reluctance, but Jiraiya could see the clarity of Naruto's decision in his unwavering gaze. Then, it's time. Not having realistically imagined that the events of Konoha could have ever come to pass with such startling ease, Naruto had discovered that the world wasn't quite what he thought it was and, though he disliked the notion, he now perceived that he would need more than his mother's battle techniques if he wanted to be properly prepared for a future which now seemed so uncertain. He had never really limited himself to only his Card-chan's techniques. He had wanted to be able to fight, though he'd put healing skills first. In fact, he was pretty sure he still felt that way. But he had never felt a real necessity to fill in the gaps that were inherent in his mother's highly specialized skill set. Now he did. Jiraiya believed that, in life, there were some lessons that, if learned on one's own, would have a greater value by sevenfold. He also believed that, in life, there were some choices that should be made on one's own. But he knew, in fact he'd always known that Naruto would come to make this choice eventually. The life of Arashi's son could not be easy, and neither could the life of a Jinchuriki. When the boy grew up and invariably found himself in a valley surrounded by wolves, at least he could be armed to the teeth. His face was caught somewhere between a grim frown and a grimmer smile as he nodded his assent. They would start on perfecting Karyu Inden. One thing first though, Naruto said, looking once more at the village below. There's a festival in town and well, the boy fidgeted, looking almost ill. You want to go? Eat some lunch or something. So, Naruto would choose to face down his fears now, to ensure that his decision was not driven by an underlying fear of weakness. It was odd how Jiraiya could pick that type of complex motive out of a few simple sentences, but there were certain aspects of Naruto that were so similar to his father. So similar, in fact, to Jiraiya himself. It would be my honor to be your support. Fine, Jiraiya agreed aloud. But we're stopping by the bathhouse on the way. I have my research to consider, after all. What? Is there even anyone who would keep a bathhouse open in the middle of a festival? Ero uncle, every time I see you I become more convinced that you have some type of mental disease. It's called adulthood, brat. No. It's called pathetic. Now come on, let's get going. I'll even pay for your freeloading ass. Not bad. Jiraiya thought, noting the insult. It was a good sign. Many of the brat's insults were often too smart-mouthed to be thought up in a despondent mood. Naruto, I'll have you swearing my ear off by nightfall. Hinata crouched in front of the counting tree. In front of her and Naruto's tree. She was in pain, as evident from the way she clutched at her heart. The longing look in her eyes was an easy tip-off that the pain was not physical. My daughter, is that you? Hyuga Hayatori asked, arriving on the scene. Ever since the successful surgery, her eyesight had gradually been returning, though not by much. But even this was a medical miracle, considering the many differences between Hyuga eyes and those of anyone else. Hinata turned to see her mother. Hi, Okar-sama, it is me. She was then taken into her mother's careful embrace. Are you in pain? Hayatori asked softly. Hinata produced the most despondent mumble Hayatori could ever dread to hear. He's gone. Oh, Hyatori said, as if she hadn't suspected the cause of her daughter's distress all along. I didn't even get to say goodbye. Hinata cried. It was a small point, that she could not have said goodbye. A small drop that could be recognized in a vast ocean of misery which she could not name. Her closest, one and only friend, her laughter, had left. Chased out of the village by those she thought would celebrate his existence. She'd known him for only months, yet time in that period had moved so slowly. It had been so precious. Hyatori smiled in a way she hoped was encouraging. Do not worry so much, my daughter. Perhaps there will be no need for goodbye at all. What do you mean? It's true that Naruto-sama's departure was. The woman fumbled for a word that would not cause more pain, sudden. Yet one day he will likely return, and on that day, you two may play together again. At least, I hope that will be the case, for Konoha as well as for my daughter. If Naruto were to return and play with my Hinata, then it would be a sign that he was amiable to peace with this village. Jiraiya of the Sannin himself had been working in the aftermath of that fateful night, according to her husband. Apparently, the Sannin had been working in the background to sow seeds of a path for Naruto's hopefully eventual return. But there was a whole village whose collective view needed to be changed, or at the least, shifted. At any rate, your father asked me to tell you, it's time for your calligraphy. As Hyatori watched her daughter nod and walk off, she couldn't shake the feeling that the girl looked so ill. But he said that, today, you must create only the most beautifully styled informal letter. He'll make sure it's delivered properly. Hyatori smiled sadly. So it won't be like the ones you sent Naruto-sama before, where they weren't delivered. Wide-eyed, Hinata sprinted off without so much as a goodbye, Oka-sama. That day, the Hyuga heiress holed herself up in her calligraphy room for 2 hours straight. All right. Let's get this started then, brat. Jiraiya stood, stomach apparently full to bursting with nephew-purchased food and drink. The pair had returned to the same high cliff where they had met earlier in the day. The tree line was a good 20–15 paces behind them, and provided them with productive scenery. Good feng shui and all that. Feng shui is the practice of placement and arrangement of space which is claimed to achieve harmony with the environment. Naruto stood in front of him, face somewhere between one of careful attention to the speaker and a flat look that said, I can't believe it. Did you actually eat that much just to spite me? But he was, after 4 hours of immersing himself in festival scenery, feeling much more over Konoha now. A strange notion to him, as he thought he was already over Konoha. Now, the first order of business is to find out why your idiot self can't perform a single Karyu Enden. Shut up. This is the guy the first invite along for emotional support. So student, Jiraiya said, pointedly ignoring Naruto's glare. He really seems to be doing better now. Perhaps he really was more down than normal because of the festival. Naruto, it's not easy to keep you down at all, is it? We're going to go into the theory of Karyu Enden a bit more. Its uses should be obvious even to a dimwit such as yourself. It's a projectile attack which can have its uses tweaked a bit. For instance, it can really have a wide spread. Kunai are fine, I guess, but a good Karyu Enden is just better. As far as projectile jutsu go, it's damn fast too. So, when was the last time you tried it? Sensei, I have a question. Naruto raised his hand. Do all teachers insult their students every other sentence, or is it just a perverted loser thing? Do you want me to teach you or not? Naruto didn't miss a beat. Well, I don't really want to learn from a guy like you, he proclaimed, throwing in a thoughtful-sounding voice for effect. But you're the only one here and you taught my father after all, so. Arashi was 1,000 times more respectful than you. Naruto cockily raised his hand again. Sensei. Then have you become 1,000 times more useless since back then? You brat. Jiraiya yelled angrily, scowling and pulling the boy's face up to his own. Whereupon, his voice dropped to a whisper, we're being watched. Thud. What? Naruto spun around. He came face to face with the very image of an assassination specialist ninja. The lanky form had not a spot that wasn't covered in black cloth or the midnight visor hiding the stranger's eyes. Thud. The sound was repeated 7 more times, and as many more black-covered figures dropped out from the tree line. Naruto backstepped in surprise, but became painfully aware of just how close he was to the edge of the cliff. Shit. Jiraiya smoothly slid in front of his nephew. No head protectors. Renegades. Sneaking up on me and Naruto, that's an impressive feat. But do you really think you can take me? Naruto's eyes were still wide. To the boy this whole situation seemed so surreal. Things had been so normal seconds ago. Naruto swallowed the lump in his throat and steadied his footing. These guys had revealed themselves in the middle of such a moment of normalcy. The parallel between that and the assassination attempt he dealt with at his and Sakura-chan's sandbox 2 weeks ago was not lost on him. They're probably here for me. 8 figures launched a cloud of kunai in a sparse flicker of motion. Doton. Daichi Hada Tate. That Jiraiya could perform the Earth Shield technique in the time between the assailants had prepared to throw, and the time the kunai reached him was a testament of skill. There was a corresponding series of thuds as the kunai lodged in the thick and well chakra-reinforced curved shield. Though it was not much taller than Jiraiya himself, it was strong enough to handle projectiles such as kunai and shuriken. Yet how long would this barrage last before higher-grade artillery would be pulled out? Naruto had a sinking feeling in his stomach when the thuds of kunai did not let up. They were outnumbered, 8-2. His uncle was said to be quite formidable, but he'd never actually seen the man fight. Either way, Naruto knew he would have to do something. But what could he do? They were pinned down to the spot. Damn. He had one option, one desperate option. Maybe his uncle wouldn't need his help and it would all be for naught, but he wasn't going to take that chance. Rat, horse, tiger, dog, ox, dragon, horse, hare, tiger. The quiet, long drag of air alerted Jiraiya to the boy's plan. Karyu Enden. The kid's strong, but he knows he's not fast enough to land a hit. Smart move, kid, now hopefully you can pull it off. Naruto's gaze became intense as he neared the end of his molding. Slowly, his eyes closed as his mind became even more intensely focused. Like this, the world shrank down to him and his targets. Over the whisper of his own breath intake, he thought he heard a crackling in the back of his mind. It was getting louder. This is all I can do. In fact, I probably can't even do this. But there's no way I won't try. It's either this or stand back and be helpless. No, I refuse. Like hell I would do something like that. Closer, that crackling, what was it? It was tough, but he was focusing on his molding and managing to keep a bead on the 8 assassins' chakra sources at the same time. In his mind's eye, the picture of blankness was now inhabited by 9 blue flames, his mental representation of chakra sources. And still, that crackling was getting louder, yet Naruto had no time for such frivolous details. Please, Naruto begged to himself, work. Time seemed to slow down to a crawl, yet suddenly, the crackling was so much more than just that. It was a blazing roar as Naruto felt the presence of a hallucination he'd never forget arrive with vicious speed at his back, and waited. He did not turn to see the fire dragon behind him, poised to pounce, but he knew that it was there, waiting for something. Naruto's eyes snapped open and glared at his opponents with a frightening intensity. Katen, echoed the boy's mind, Karyu Enden. Naruto's head and indeed, his entire body snapped back from the recoil as hell was let loose in a breath. The fire dragon missile did not roar in freedom, it only sizzled the air and blazed its way in a punch through the back of Jiraiya's shield with no perceivable difficulty at all. It met even less resistance as it punched through a black-clad ninja and forest line beyond, all in an instant. Jiraiya was startled at the sheer focus displayed in the jutsu. It was not large by Karyu Enden standards, but its power was concentrated to an extreme. However, the silver-haired man's surprise was clamped down on in the next split second. Jiraiya snapped his head to his nephew's location. The boy was wide-eyed, surprised at the force of his own technique, but yet more surprised at the kickback which was sending him flying the short distance off the edge of the cliff. The silver-haired man launched himself to the cliff's edge with an arm outstretched. Too little, too late. Naruto. He was on the verge of launching himself downwards off the cliff face, catching his nephew, and dealing with the landing in some last-second plan, but was interrupted by a sight he hadn't expected. Naruto looked more grave than the Toad Hermit had ever seen him. "Hurry and pull me up, Ero Barker," he demanded, standing on the side of the cliff easily, and grabbing his uncle's still dumbly outstretched arm. "We've got some bad guys to toast." Jiraiya broke out of his doubly surprised look with a "tche," so Naruto had finally finished the tree-climbing exercise. He easily hoisted his nephew up but held his wrists in place to forestall yet another Karyu Enden. Naruto shot his uncle a look demanding an explanation. Every second of inaction was a second where they were little more than human-shaped target practice props. "They aren't real." "What?" Jiraiya smiled a proud smile as if Naruto had passed some type of training regime with exceptional results, and the black-clad ninja behind him hanged in puffs of smoke, revealing yet more Jiraiya's impossible. A nearby frog croaked, oblivious to the impending violence. It was the only sound made in the vast seconds it took for everything to sink into poor Naruto's mind. "Be Bunshin no Jutsu," Naruto yelled, between disbelieving shock and equally disbelieving outrage. "Bunshin no $, Jutsu." He then roared. You bastard! Is this some kind of $up revenge for that prank I pulled?" he yelled, incensed beyond imagining. Surprisingly, Jiraiya actually paled in the face of his nephew's rage, which was radiating levels of anger and violence at pissed-off Tsunade like magnitudes. No, he placated. "This is training, I swear. Like your father, you pull out all the stops when you're backed into a corner, so I." "Ero uncle, why you? Jiraiya didn't like the way his nephew's voice seemed to echo with malcontent. "Well, you did it, didn't you? That Karyu Enden." "That's true," Naruto eventually, slowly admitted, yet he did not decrease his glare. He had been worried for his and his uncle's very lives. "But I swear to God I will make your life a living hell for the next 5 days," the blonde said gravely before drawing back, craning back his head, and shooting a look at his uncle down his nose which proposed that Jiraiya really had no idea what level of horror he was in store for. "Be prepared to repent in your misery, Ero Yuru." Omake, there were many questions that were not answered that day on both sides. Naruto wanted to know how a Bunshin could create such a level of chakra output, and Jiraiya wanted to know just what was up with Naruto producing a Karyu Enden of such force. However, these questions would have to wait a day or so, as more pressing matters were at hand. "Tsunade. Tsunade, for the love of all that is good, help me." A battered Jiraiya yelled desperately as he approached his old teammate in the middle of the shopping district. The man and his clothes looked like they had just been through a meat grinder and lived to tell the tale. "Please," he frantically begged. "Please." Tsunade raised a delicate eyebrow at her former teammate. Her silent question of, "What have you done now?" was answered in the form of approaching hordes of angry women, from all sides. "Oh," Tsunade said. "You want me to get Naru-chan to stop, huh?" "He's been leaking information to them," Jiraiya insisted, yelling over the menacingly approaching crowd. "He's been organizing them. Help me. Save me." Jiraiya felt the cold surface of a glassy storefront window at his back through the rips in his tattered clothing, and the man knew fear. He's turned them into vicious monsters. Some of the women noticed Tsunade, who, compared to Jiraiya, was on the complete opposite of the respect spectrum for her glorious additions to female pride everywhere. Seeing attention focused on her, Tsunade knew it was time to make a choice. She chose her son, of course. "Oh, Jiraiya. Every time I catch you, you repent your perversity, and I foolishly believed you. Yet for 4 years now you have been trying to corrupt my son, and use him to aid you in your deranged, daily tasks." It helped that the villagers didn't know about Naruto's status as a Jinchuriki. In fact, outside of Konoha, most villagers in Fire Country actually didn't know about her son's connection with Kyuubi, a feat accomplished by a deal she'd extracted from her old sensei before she'd left Konoha that fateful day she'd adopted Naruto as her own. Screams of, "What? Unbelievable! Inhuman!" and enemy of women and children everywhere, were heard repeatedly from the increasingly violent din of the female crowd. Yes, Tsunade fake lamented, as if her Naruto would give in to the old pervert's corruption. And I had been willing to forgive and forget. I had thought that you would change. I thought you truly cared for the one you would call nephew, but it's become so clear that the only one you care for is yourself. Tsunade only regretted that she wasn't as good at getting the pervert into trouble as her son was. The boy was capable of taking such acts and breaking it down into a science. Once or twice, he had gone so far as to research new words, and then practicing them in a written speech, all for the sole purpose of using them to prank or insult his uncle. And now it seemed that the boy was moving into an even more terrifying pervert-punishing strategy. Jiraiya, and indeed most male shinobi, had an iron, unspoken rule of refraining from using ninja techniques to either incapacitate or escape civilian women, lest they be gossiped about and shunned by the female half of the world. Because, simply, in Jiraiya's experience, female civilians knew how to hold a grudge if you didn't either talk them out of wanting to hurt you or accept your punishment, like a man. But back to the subject at hand, Jiraiya was frantic with terror. The wall of angry women was closing in by the second. Creak! All movement paused as the glass door just to Jiraiya's right opened and a group of men walked into the street, and therefore, into the middle of the closing ring of women intent on bodily harm. The men who were, it turns out, but the first of a stream of males leaving the shop froze solid as the situation and tension in the air became known to them. It was then that Jiraiya spotted the books many of them were carrying. The orange-covered novel was easily recognizable as his precious creation of mass perversion. Comrades in arms. He smiled, realizing that the shop window he was now pressed against must indeed belong to a bookstore that had only just stocked his newest novel not less than an hour ago at 12 o'clock noon. Wait, wasn't that a little too convenient? The situation suddenly reeked of either irony or fate getting ready to kick the ever-living daylights out of his sorry ass. Jiraiya's smile started to falter. Ah, Jiraiya-sama. One man greeted reverently, clutching his copy of the book close to his heart. Your latest. Anything further the man might have said was cut off by the sound of a sickeningly sweet voice, Anata. Oh dear. The man noticed his wife in the crowd, hid the book with masterful swiftness, realized exactly the situation that was underway, shot Jiraiya an apologetic look, and dutifully grabbed the large broomstick his wife daintily handed to him with a smile on her face. Oh shit. Jiraiya's mind screamed as the scene was repeated with only marginal variation for every man that left the bookstore. Even men that weren't romantically involved with anyone were somehow coerced onto the side of the female crowd. The market street became full to bursting with women that each insisted they wanted to get at least one solidly satisfying slap or kick in personally, and men that really had no sane choice but to refer to Jiraiya strictly as an enemy of women everywhere, and act like they wanted to get at least one hit in as well, whether they actually felt like that or not. A thought occurred to Jiraiya. Really, compared to what happened to his nephew 2 weeks prior, this was less than nothing. These people were not the sum populace of a village out to kill him, and they were mobbing him after he had actually done several perverted things and not after having saved one of their own. These women were angry as hell, but not truly hateful with the ferocity that Konoha had been. Yet he still didn't see why he had to endure this hell. I repent. He desperately cried, hoping that wherever the boy was, he could hear his heartfelt pleas for mercy. The crowd closed in. I repent. Shizune turned to her Otautu, who had just arrived on the scene with her. Did you hear that, Naruto-kun? Naruto made a reluctant sound. Yeah, I suppose I can just let him off the hook after today. It's not like I have anything that can top this. That Ero Barker won't fall for this a second time, and I don't really want to spend any time thinking of something new. I did complete my Karyu Enden today, too, I guess. Shizune smiled at the boy, feeling, God forbid, sympathetic to the painful pleas for mercy coming from the Frog Sanon's location, such as, no, not there I beg you. And, that doesn't come off. That doesn't come off. For the love of God, stop trying to rip it off. Tsunade looked thoughtful at what her son had just said. No, she disagreed. You know, I really think you should just go for the whole 5 days, she said with glee. Why not? Hell, I'll help you. Tsunade-sama. Huh? Really, you'd help? Well, things would be a lot easier. Sure, of course. Just tell me what you need me to do, Naru-chan. It's about time that perverse idiot got his proper punishment, Tsunade grinned vindictively. Jiraiya's pained wailing once more cut off the Hao's conversation. You can't do that. The pervert insisted. That's my writing hand. I'm an author. What? He's an author? One woman asked, not having known this. Yeah, he writes those orange ichi novels, another woman responded. Break that hand. Wait. Jiraiya interrupted. Surprisingly, people actually did wait to hear the man out. He addressed the real driving force behind his current pain, the women. It's become clear that I'm going to die today. So you all should at least do the decent thing and flash me some flesh so I can go to heaven with a smile on my face, he reasoned. Total outraged disbelief. Suddenly, half the men, the married half with wives in the crowd, had much less difficulty becoming enthusiastic about kicking Jiraiya in painful places. Ka-chan. You know, I really think just today will be enough, and honestly, I think it'll be a little dangerous for Ero Baka's health if he gets hit at all in the next few days. Maybe I went too far, he might be in casts or something. What, just from this? Tsunade asked incredulously. This is nothing to that guy. He's just being whiny. Tsunade insisted, and was going to say more, but she was rudely interrupted by a high-pitched scream. The pain. Oh, the pain. Tsunade-sama, I don't think it would be wise. Oh, nonsense. He's done his endurance training. And you can't tell just by looking at him. But internally he's fine. That idiot reinforces his internal defense by molding chakra right underneath the surface of his skin. So only the top looks hurt, really. What? Naruto exclaimed. That cheater. Exactly, see? Don't you want to punish him some more? Huh? Tsunade prodded. Tsunade-sama. Stop trying to force Naruto-kun into things. Sure. Let's do it, Ka-chan, Otautu. That's my son. Tsunade-sama. Just one more day, though. I'm stopping after tomorrow, Naruto informed. Sigh. Well, I guess that's enough then. It's just that this looks so much more satisfying than merely punching him when he's perverted. No. You two are going too far. Otautu, you have to. By the way, Shizune. I didn't tell you, did I? Tsunade rhetorically asked. Jiraiya actually is planning on teaching Naru-chan some more techniques, but he wants Naruto to help him be perverted in return. Silence from Shizune. Her head tilted downwards and her hair fell over her eyes and cast them in shadow. Oh, that. Was he actually being serious? Shit, I don't want to butt. Don't worry, Naru-chan, we'll get him to change his mind somehow. I suppose. But how? Tomorrow. We rain suffering down upon Jiraiya-sama. Shizune finally spoke out in the form of a growl, uncharacteristically promising Jiraiya's fate as a painful one in a surprisingly dark tone, until he changes his mind. Hey, I knew you'd see reason, Shizune. I didn't take you on as my apprentice for nothing. After all. What? You never said anything like that before, Ka-chan. You're just making stuff up. Oh, when will the pain stop? When will you have mercy? Jiraiya wailed.